What is the common name of your star in relation to G class on the spectral scale, 5.5 billion years old. Correct. Hey, yeah. It's official. I graduated magna cum laude from Boise State. I have the certificate to prove it.
No, did they hire you yet?
I'm
Tiffany, please call the roll.
Councilman Bundy.
Present.
Councilman Brennan.
Present.
Councilman McCain.
Present.
Councilman Stokes.
Present.
Mayor Sykes.
Present, let the record reflect that we do have a quorum for the June 14th, 2020 meeting at 6 p.m. Before we get into item number 2, I have Marty Anderson that was going to give a quick synopsis of the RSAT stuff. So with that, I'm going to let Marty come in and give a quick briefing to the council. Sure.
So, Mayor, Council, Marty Anderson, Military Liaison for the City of Mountain Home. Just want to give you a couple of updates as this is relevant to your upcoming next discussion. So we just came back from a trip from talking with Air Combat Commander as well as Air Force Chief of Staff General Brown. And then we had an opportunity to talk with the Assistant Secretary of the Air Force on installations, environment, and energy. So one of the key topics that's important, relevant to you all, is that RSAT just announced, so the Republic of Singapore Air Force just announced that it's going to increase its mission set from 14 aircraft to 20 aircraft. And what that means for the city is that the growth they'll have approximately 75 military and plus their families. So that's going to be about 175 personnel with their families, as well as 41 additional contractors to support that mission. That timeline, the reason it's so critical is that timeline is going to happen within the next 6 months. So December, you're going to have an increase of potentially 175 RSAF personnel and their family members. Additionally to note, I just talked with Tim Farmer, who's the housing manager at Mount Home Air Force Base. He let me know that approximately 60 airmen in the next 3 months from July to September will be pushed out of the dormitories and will be asked to move and live on the economy. So obviously a significant impact in a very short term, trying for our airmen to try to find places to live. So just wanted to provide that update as you go through and try to have discussions on housing and the growth and the impact to our community. So stand by. Any questions for me?
Councilman James?
What time frame you said this was taking place?
So the for the Republic of Singapore Air Force, December. So
December.
July will be 2 aircraft will be received, and then the other 4 will come after that, and will completed by December.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, man.
Thanks, Marty.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, we'll jump into item number 2, public hearing, Planning and Zoning Commission, a recommendation for the request by Viper Investments to annex in zone R3 with planned unit development, PUD, preliminary plat for Thunderbolt Landing. I'll let Brock go take that away.
Thank you, Mr.
Oh, wait,
Mayor.
really quick. I'm gonna let Tiffany speak really quick, and then I'll let Brock go into it.
Before we hear public testimony, we have a couple of rules. Please, no duplicate testimonies, no yelling or rude behavior, please, no personal attacks, 3-minute time limits for each person, and you cannot give your time to another individual.
All right, Brock, with that, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also, if anyone does come in, we do have an overflow area, which I will direct them to, just so people don't just have to stand. It's a nice area. It's in our Economic Development Conference Hall.
It's nice air condition.
It's nice. So, Mayor, what we are bringing before you today is a application forwarded to you by the Planning and Zoning Commission for a planned unit development named Thunderbolt R3 PUD. It's something all of you are very familiar with. What is being proposed is infill development, which will provide ultimately 238 new homes. There's going to be various lots. As you can see, I have drawings behind you that illustrate the overall development. You have a portion which are larger, which try to reflect the, thank you. You have this large amount right here, which tries to reflect this neighborhood directly to the west. It does get denser as we get right here to the center, right against the interstate, and also right against this portion of town right here. Staff has reviewed it with multiple different apartments. We believe we have adequate infrastructure as well. We are able to service it with all of our public services, with both police and also fire. What is being proposed for this development, essentially have Legacy Park in such close proximity that they will create a system of trail systems which will link to the brown belt, which will take them to Legacy Park to enjoy all of those offerings. They are also going to provide improvements for Greystone Park, which is up here, which will be trees, benches, and other specific items that the applicant could speak more to. In our comprehensive plan, you will find portions that perhaps say that this may be out of place. Per the findings of fact from the Planning and Zoning Commission, it was found that it did not meet the small town feel, nor did it model itself in its scale and overall scope with the surrounding neighborhoods. However, there are other portions in our comprehensive plan as well that do say that we do have a need for housing, fulfilling the missing middle portion of housing that your typical mountain home resident can afford, being that their overall salary is approximately $50,000 a year. With that, I'm here to answer any questions you may have. If you have any specific questions concerning our zoning ordinance or also concerning the comprehensive plan, I am here to be your fact finder to make sure you have the very best information. And with that, if you do not have any questions at this time directly for me, I would like to yield my time to the applicant, Ms. Jane Suggs, to continue with her presentation.
Councilman?
Ms. Mayor,
Councilman Stowe?
I had a question on some language in Brock, and that was the small town feel. It seems very subjective. What my definition of small town feel might be a little different to his and to hers. And could you define that a little for the council?
Not to put you on the spot, but that's why we hire elected officials that can help with the continued interpretation. So the comprehensive plan is a long-range planning document with a planning horizon from 20 to 30 years. And it says, we know we're gonna grow, we know growth is gonna happen, we think it should kind of look this way. And it mentions different components, like we wanna maintain small town feel. We want things to always feel like we're in a very tight-knit together community. Obviously, what's small town for me may be very different for you, may be very different from the mayor, etc. What you were tasked with, and what the Planning and Zoning Commission was tasked with as well, was to find their interpretation of, for this specific area of town, is it fulfilling that mission? And as I mentioned before, there are other components of the comprehensive plan that you need to look at as well. Because yes, you may find some that say no, but you may find some that yes. And that's when you're playing the balancing game of creating this mental scale of, is it creating more good or is it creating more bad?
Thank you.
Sorry for my non-answer.
Any other councilman, any questions for Brock? No? We'll have Jane, come on down.
Do you have a mic that we can use up here?
Yes, the green one right here.
All right. I want to make sure I can hear what she has to say.
I'll try real hard to speak loud, though I am gonna speak to them, so.
Well, can you move the mic over then, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Around the other way.
Yeah, probably, yes. There we go. Now, is that broadcasting to everything?
Yes.
And you're zooming this, or?
Yes.
Okay, that's great.
YouTube.
YouTube. I've always wanted to be a YouTube star.
There you go.
Tonight's your night.
Tonight's my
Ms.
night.
Mayor, before we start, what's your name again?
I'm Jane Suggs,
Okay.
Suggs,
It's June.
and let me see if I can make this, I'm gonna do this.
We turn the
Hold on.
projector a little bit to the, there you go. Right.
Let's see if I can make this work. It works on my computer, but I'll start off, I'm sorry.
Really quick, could you verify what your role is with this project to the council, real quick?
Yes, let me start off by reading my very well prepared script. Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, city staff, and of course neighbors. Hi, many of you I've seen before. I'm Jane Suggs. I work for a company called Gem State Planning, and I'm contracted, and my office is in Boise on Cable Car Street, 9839 Cable Car. I am here representing my client, which is Trilogy Development. And they're developers. They often build projects for Corey Barton Homes. So you'll see that I'm showing some examples tonight of Corey Barton homes, because we expect those to be in this particular project. Staff provided an update, and you have a staff report. So I'm just gonna provide some highlights. I wrote brief highlights, but I'm not gonna be super brief here because I feel like this is a very important project and you need to get the full story. I just wanna describe how we actually have a well thought out plan. Let's see. Here is a vicinity map, and it shows location. It's on top of the Google map showing all the development that surrounds Thunderbolt Landing. You can see that's all developed all around us. Here is an area map that includes the Thunderbolt parcels. I use Thunderbolt Landing and Thunderbolt kind of interchangeably. You can see how we kind of match those lot sizes, and that's what Brock was talking about, how we match the lot sizes. So this is a little project that we put our plat in here, and you can see how these lots match, and you can see how these lots, when we're right up against another project or another development, we're matching those lot sizes. We do have more dense development here, and in the green area, you'll see where we have some open space. A lot of that is for pathways, so that we can make sure we get people to the well, I call it the green belt, even though it might not be. And so we can get people to those amenities. We do have, this is a landscape rendering, and it shows the lots and it shows the open space. Let me use this to talk about some of the goals for Thunderbolt Landing. This is based on our meetings with the city staff and the whole staff. We had a big group of people. I think there were 15 or 20 of us in the room when we first met back in September of last year. And by the way, I do want to thank the staff, because a lot of folks have weighed in on this, and I really appreciate their attention and their assistance as we've worked through this. There are a couple of goals that we knew we needed to meet, and one was, I think you just heard this, Mountain Home needs housing. The second goal is the city would like somewhat affordable housing for our residents, and especially for the largest employer in the area, which is the Air Force Base. And by the way, I did attend a housing summit with the Mountain Home Air Force Base back in November, and the message there was very clear. They need more housing for service members and their families. You have a letter in your packet, I think, from Colonel Goldman, and this is the letter. I can't read it very well here. I'm sure the city can make it available to whoever wants to get a copy of it, but these are a couple of things that stood out to me, and this is dated May of 2021, so this is recent. These are a few statements that are in the letter. I want to continue to encourage the city of Mountain Home's efforts to increase the local housing market. This one's really important. Housing is my #1 non-war fighting priority. That's a pretty big priority for an Air Force base, to think that housing outside of preparing for war is their #1 priority. And then again, in the letter, without an increase in the supply of local housing, expansion of the Mountain Home Air Force Base mission is greatly hindered. So those are really important things to keep in mind as we're looking at any project that you're trying to look at here in Mountain Home. You've got a partner that really needs your assistance. Again, the landscape plan, as we talk about goal #3, the staff helped us understand that we needed to do some low maintenance home lots and have some limited open space that requires very little maintenance. And the reason is this particular property, Thunderbolt, does not have irrigation water rights. So the home lawns and the common open space actually will have to be irrigated with the potable water. And so that means that, and I do that in Boise, and it's expensive. If you want to keep your grass green, it's really expensive, and it's not a really good use of resources. So we have developed a plan with sort of minimal open space, not green lawns. That's why we asked the landscape architect not to show that in bright green like you see in a lot of plans, because I don't think it will be. We're using a different type of product. We do have trees, and we tried to put those in locations where they could be really helpful. They're trees in some of the little common areas where people can gather, and there are trees at the entry to the subdivision and along 10th Street. So we feel like we've done a good job of minimizing the green landscape but using it appropriately. Oh no, I'll lose my voice. Excuse me. We do understand that, thank you. We do understand that when you have dried up lawns and open space, you know, that's kind of not watered, it's kind of been a problem in some other subdivisions. And so we were very particular about this. And by doing this, we're actually using the lots themselves to help mitigate for some of that. So we have asked in our PUD to have more coverage of the homes than your typical code would allow, so that we have 50% coverage of the lots with homes and building space as opposed to 35%, which is typical. That means you've got a lot of green space you've got to keep irrigated. Another goal that we had was to build a neighborhood with a mix of lot sizes, and we wanted that mix of lot sizes to provide for a mix of housing sizes that will provide for a varied demographic. So we can have single owners, we can have small families, we can have larger families, and even retirees. I'm heading that way. And there are a few other facts that we kind of considered when we were developing. This is, as you remember looking at the vicinity map, this is like an enclave. And this is called an enclave because we're surrounded by city limits. And the nice thing about it is services are available. They're like in the streets already. We're not extending sewer, you know, a quarter mile or half mile to get to service the property. Let me show you, this is your comprehensive plan map, and I can show you our property is right here. And this orange area is just comprehensively planned as residential. That designation says in the comp plan a full range of residential uses and limited office uses even. Of course, the comp plan has many goals and policies related to housing and land use. And so we work with the staff to make sure we sort of address those in our plan. And as Brock mentioned, there are some that say things like small town feel, but there are also some that say these things. And I can find these places in the comp plan if you want a reference to that. I can show you page numbers, or Brock has that information as well. These are from your comprehensive plan. In the housing chapter, it says, quote, "The existing housing market in Mountain Home is in a crisis, and the community is feeling the ramifications of the shortage." This is in your vision document. "Low inventories have impacted the workforce. Without housing, there is no workforce to hire." And then it goes on to talk about the Air Force Base being overburdened with their housing occupancy. And I won't go through that because you just heard some very important stuff about that. Mountain Home Air Force Base has the most significant impact on its local community when compared to other Air Force bases in the western region, and you probably have already heard that as well. There are more goals on page 36 through 38 in housing, and these kind of go with the process to openly collaborate with developers and builders to assist with the conceptual planning of areas that will be developed, ensuring a mix of housing types and connectivity to other parts of the city. And I believe that this project is a really good example of that. And again, working with the staff, just know that there are, infrastructure is available and we are providing that connectivity. Let's see, I'm gonna skip through a few of these because I could go on and on because your comp plan is full of policies, goals, and objectives. Promoting residential communities which provide a range of housing options and promote socioeconomic balance. So that's what you get when you have a large lot with maybe a larger home or a kind of a first-time buyer lot, which is some of the smaller lots. Promoting infill development of a variety of housing types that would increase density and promote revitalization to the neighborhood. So just to let you know, Thunderbolt Landing does support and encourage connectivity by providing internal walk paths throughout the development and connections to the surrounding area. Again, these are comp plan, this is your vision, this is your document. Thunderbolt Landing does encourage infill development within a matured area of the city, which is with readily available infrastructure. I think I'm going to go on. I have a page of these, so I'm going to try not to do all of those. But you've read your comp plan, and it's very recent, so you know we've taken some great pains to make sure that we meet those. those policies. This is your zoning map. You can see where we are. This is the white area right here. The brown area is R3, the blue area is R2, and the green area is R1. There are actually no R1 lots actually adjacent to this property. So we are separated from R1 by other zones. I haven't analyzed exactly in every zone what size lots there are, because the R3, I mean, there are so many different ways of looking at this. In fact, I was looking at this area over here, and there's one street that has probably half duplexes. So you wouldn't even realize it until you kind of look at the plan, and you see that that small street has a lot of duplexes on it, which is great, because that R3 allows that. But our PUD is very specific, no duplexes. We have a specific plan that is part of our PUD. So just to let you know, when you zone something R3, you get a mix, but when you do R3 PUD, you get a plan. Let's see. Our requested zone of R3 PUD meets the purpose and intent of the PUD ordinance, including a variety of lot sizes. We talked about the use of streetscape and pedestrian aesthetics, and efficient use of open space, and the flexibility of development, which are found in the chapter 18. This is chapter 18 of your code. Gosh, more stuff about the PUD. I think I just stop here for a second and just say, in summary, we believe, contrary to what the P&Z found, that we don't meet the small town feel. We feel like we have gone through this ordinances and your comprehensive plan, and we do meet many or most of your requirements in those two documents. So this is what, as developers and planners, we try to do, is we look at your vision and we say, what can we do to meet that vision? And that we do that in every jurisdiction's a little different, but we do always use those same documents to help us figure out what this community has a vision for. And it's not just our vision, it's your vision. Look again. So there's the blow up right there of the zoning map. Again, here's our plan, and it does show 238 new single-family detached homes on 47.49 acres. That averages 2 to 5 dwelling units an acre. As Brock mentioned, we have some larger lots adjacent to the existing larger lots, and those are 7,000 to 8,000 square foot lots, are similar to Bel Air over here. Some of these lots are 10,000 to 16,000 square foot in size. These are 7,000 to 8,000 square feet in size. We do have some standard lots, and standard is 5,000 to 6,000 square foot lots in the interior. And then, of course, we have some of the smaller lots, and those lots are 3,400 square feet lots. They're 36 feet wide, 95 feet deep, and the houses are 26 feet wide. These are what we would call someone who wants to buy a house that has very little maintenance, because we cover a lot of the land, that lot. With 5-foot side yard setbacks, we have a great opportunity to get people into housing, I think. In fact, I want to show you some of the houses to see if I can get to those. Let me refer to this map. It's up there, and it shows purple as some larger lots, the medium-sized lots here in red, and then the orange are the smaller lots. And I'm going to show you some pictures of what those houses are. Here are the wide lots, the purple lots. 3-car garages. They're 60 feet wide or more. I think the ones that are on the west side are like 80 feet or maybe even 100 feet wide. So we get 3-car garages, 1- and 2-story homes. We have made a commitment in our PUD document that for those larger lots on the west side, those purple lots, if there's a 1-story house, we'll have a 1-story house as well. So we want to match that. We don't want 2-story houses looking into someone's backyard. So we have made that commitment in our PUD document. Let's see, we have, and here's the map again. So we're going to show you some of the red lots here. And these are 2-car garages, typically 50 feet wide lots. And these are pretty standard all over the valley, as it turns out. There's one of these that's really cute that I like. It's, this one. I like this little house right here. I think it's the cutest thing with the columns. It's kind of craftsman looking. And some 1-story and some 2-story. And then we have the orange lots. And these are the ones that are 36-foot wide lots. The houses are 26 feet wide. You'll see we have a 2-car garage, every one. And we have space, because we have a 20-foot setback, we have space to put parking in front. So, and then these houses are not small. The smallest one, I think we listed as 1,471 square feet. It's called the PO. I mean, I even have a particular house I can build, but we're building a lot more that are, the ranges are a lot larger than that. 2,200 square foot houses on these smaller lots because you go up. In fact, this is a drawing. I don't know if any of you went on a little tour. I gave Brock some information about going out to Kavanaugh, which was a project in Meridian, and this is a picture of some of the Kavanaugh lots, and they sold very well. Some of them were built in 2018, 2019, and 2020. So some of those are about 3 years old, but they've all been sold.
Hey, can I interrupt?
Sure.
On that last picture there? Your,
This one right here?
yes.
Okay.
Is it your intent to have the sidewalk all the way out to the street or with a, like a
We-
little parking pad? I don't know what you call that.
We have we have attached sidewalks, so we will not have the planting strip. That is mostly because we don't wanna have any additional landscaping. That would be the responsibility of the owner. And I'll tell you, in every town you go to, people don't understand that parking strip is, that little landscape strip is their responsibility. In fact, you have to put like conduit underneath the sidewalk when you're building the sidewalk, so you can get the sprinkler system there if you have one. So, no, it will be attached, so that is a little different.
And the depth of the driveways for your measurements start at the back of the
Back of the sidewalk,
to the garage door,
yeah, to
basically.
the garage door, 20 feet,
Mayor, can I interrupt one more time?
yeah.
When these sold in Meridian, and I know we have a different market than Meridian, what was the price they were going for?
From 360 to 380, and so, and the ones that were 360 were built in 2018. So, when you realize that the price of lumber has gone up $30,000 plus in the past year, I would say most of these right now are being built for about 400. So, I know, it's crazy. So when we were talking about affordable housing, it's really hard to talk about that. Right now, we are in a real strange time right now. And it might not always last, but it will for a while. And so, but you know, one of the things is, he did build it for 360 then, so we'll see. I mean, he sold it for 360 back then, so, I mean, actually had an assistant pull some numbers of that Kavanaugh project. And that is in Meridian, so a little different market, but, I mean, we were trying so hard to get it 300, but I don't think there's a $300,000 house new house on the market right now. And this brings up the idea too, that I think is kind of important to talk about. When you have someone coming in and wanting to build new houses, somebody will buy this at 400, and they're gonna sell their house that they've already paid for, and they're gonna get two something for it, 280. Because there are quite a few older homes in the market, I think probably 10 in Mountain Home right now. And that's when people will go into, there's finally some relief. So you do that transfer. I mean, really, I think that's going to be your best opportunity for affordability, is not necessarily the new houses because of these costs that have gone up. I mean, the other day, somebody told me they were having a hard time finding just the, like the light switches, all the boxes for electrical and that type of stuff. It's just so hard. People were like not finding the supplies they need to build houses, so, you know, the waiting game.
Jane,
Yeah.
what would you say that a house like right here would sell for right now?
Well, it's a big lot. You live there, so that's a good question. It's hard for me to say, because if you put a big house on that big lot, I mean, we're talking about 600,000, 700,000. And that's a problem with the market right now, is there a market for that? And then the other thing is, I will have to say this, and I need to clarify this. There might not be a huge house on that because of that. You might end up with a 10,000 square foot lot with a 2,300 square foot house on it, just because that's what the market is. And so I don't think there's any guarantee about a big house, and I'll tell you, CUNA's tried to do that before, tell you what size house to put on there, and they got in trouble with the fair housing. So I don't wanna go too far into that, cause that's not my expertise, but I remember when they were saying, oh, well, we're gonna tell you all your houses have to be 1,500 square feet or larger, and they found out that they couldn't specify that, so. I just can't help but think if you're gonna spend that kind of money to get that size lot, that you're gonna put a nice size house on it with a 3-car garage or more, but that's just me. I don't know, people back here, what you gonna build on that big lot, so. We won't. So, I mean, it's a good question, I don't know. I mean, maybe you have a better idea, because I don't do real estate. I mean, I try to actually stay away from that. Okay.
So on your smaller lots, then what size houses are you looking at putting on there?
I have it on my little drawing right here. I don't know how to make this bigger. How do I make this bigger? It's on there right now, yeah. 14 to, what is it, the purple lot, no, the, orange.
Maybe. Oh, if you're 2000.
No, the smaller lots, the
Small?
yeah.
Oh, you want this? Orange or?
Orange?
Orange.
1400, 71, 23, 18. 1400 to 2300.
1400 to 2300.
300. That's.
So you're not putting a small house on it by any means. You're just taking all the lot and filling it up.
We're filling it up and going up. A 2-story, no, you know, no higher than your standard R2, R3 kind of height, too, which I think is 30 feet, right? 30 or 35 feet for a 2-story house, and we're not going 3. I live in I think I'm, well, P&Z, everybody knows, I live in a house that's less than 1,400 square feet, and it's more than I need. I got more house than I wanna clean. So, and, you know, so anyway, so, there are some houses, and I'm happy to talk about those some more. Again, pricing is so hard. I mean, ask me tomorrow, because and here is that landscape plan again, and recognizing the lack of water rights. And so we have a 10-foot pathway here, tree-lined street here, and it takes you up to the cul-de-sac and then to the green belt. I have another little slide here showing you, because in this area right here, we wanna put a little top lot and a pergola. So this is kinda what this looks like. We put a little gazebo pergola with, this is a nice meeting place. And then we have a little top lot, a little place for kids to play. Let's see.
Hey Jim, what were you going to do with the Greystone Park?
Yes, we have a plan to improve the Greystone Park. A 10-foot connecting pathway, and I didn't bring that little copy of Greystone, but there's a pathway that goes from Greystone down to the green belt. We'll be putting in a 10-foot asphalt pathway. We've agreed to do 15 trees. They'll be on drip irrigation, so we'll have trees planted. And, I think at least 2, anchored, weather-resistant, benches, so a place where people can hang out. If there are other plantings, they will be low water use plantings or arid plantings. We have another material, it's sort of like this, it's like a chip, or it's kind of a landscape material that doesn't hurt your feet so bad, that we've been using in like places like this little central area right here, and I can't remember the name of it, but we put it in our letter. The landscape architect said we would put something like that instead of grass here. Again, we're trying to keep the grass a minimum, but we want a surface that people can walk on and, you know, kind of recreate a little bit on, throw the ball and stuff like that, and not hurt yourself if you fall down. So, let's see, we did, actually just recently got somebody to do an estimate of what that Greystone Park improvements would be. Surprise, it amazes me, $20,000 to $25,000 to do that improvement on Greystone Park. So that is off of our site, it's part of another project, but we've agreed to do that, and we think that's important to do that, to make sure that we have good connectivity, a place where people can get together, and also just an improvement to the whole area there. I'm gonna do a little quick thing on traffic. Traffic was a big issue, I think, for some of our planning and zoning commissioners. This is your, functional street classification map. I'm gonna blow that up a little bit right there. So, there's our project. These yellow lines are actually collector streets. All the other streets that are around are local streets. They have a capacity of up to 2,000 cars a day. Collectors carry anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000 cars a day. 2-lane collector streets. They're places where you want the traffic to go. These other darker, streets here, these are minor arterials. And then you see the red dotted line, that's your bike path that runs around here on the greenbelt. We did, have a licensed professional traffic engineer complete a traffic impact study, and it's been reviewed by the city staff. The TIS found that the level of service of all the streets, that's the collectors and the local streets, that will carry all the subdivision traffic, they all operated at a level of service A or B. Now, I'm used to working in places like Meridian and Boise where the levels of service are D and E, and we're doing mitigation. But in this case, there was not the need for doing that. So at 238 homes, 10 vehicle trips a day, that's 2,380 vehicle trips a day from that subdivision. And if a local street will carry 2,000, you can see with all of those opportunities to travel, we're not going to overtax. Now, I will admit, for the neighbors, that will be more traffic than you've seen on your street before because people are living there. So if you're used to seeing 15 or 20 or 30 cars a day come by your street, and you see now 200, I mean, that's a big difference, but it's still within the threshold of that street and what the city expects to maintain.
Jane,
Yes,
when was that traffic study done?
good question. Last year, it was done during COVID.
So it's really not a good accurate report.
Well,
Schools weren't being during that or
No,
anything
it,
else.
it used older data. Typically, the traffic engineer would update that with some growth, you know, take some 2018, 2019 counts and grow them, with some growth and just say, okay, everything's gonna change. But when he found out that the streets were carrying such small amounts of traffic, he didn't do a whole lot of adjustments to that. So I asked him specifically, how did you adjust your traffic counts and use the old counts? Because you never just take a number and run with it. You look at old counts, you look at other projects, if you've got other projects near you, if you're doing a traffic engineer, because I work with the traffic engineers all the time. We work with CR Engineering, Kimley Horn, Kittleson, so we work with lots of different traffic engineers. And so they always do a lot of analysis to come up with good counts. This has been looked at by your staff. They seem to think that that was an appropriate thing. And again, we're not going to overtax the threshold of your local and collector streets. So there was no real adjustment made to the numbers because it was already A's and B's, which is as good as you can get.
Councilor Britt.
Yes.
Jane, on, follow-up to Councilman McCain's question, on paragraph number 18 of the, findings of fact that we were given from the planning and zoning meeting. It says in here that you testified that you could not specify a methodology for the adjustment made. Are you saying now, since then, you've?
Yes, I've talked to the traffic engineer because I didn't know at that time how he adjusted it. I called him and I asked him, and yes, he said he did not adjust the numbers, but he looked at the level of service. And he did not make a lot of adjustment because we were at such good levels of service.
So the levels of service, but he didn't go back to prior years and?
Oh, he did. He did in looking at the numbers. He took counts during COVID, and you're right. That's not good because schools weren't in place and people were staying home and not driving as much. But he looked at other numbers and he did not see where adding this traffic to any of those counts would cause the counts to be more than A or B level of service.
Where else would the city be able to provide data as to prior years that are specific to this, to the arterials or the streets for this neighborhood impact?
You know, I don't know, you have to go back pretty far, I guess. He does, I don't give him that information, he does that, so I don't know if he's contacted the city or he had his own data. Chang Ream, the CR Engineering, and he used to work with Dan Thompson. Dan Thompson been around for 30 years doing traffic study. He was at Earth Tech for a while and he went out on his own, so they have a lot of traffic information. Are you still wondering if that we're gonna have a failing, or are you just more interested in the actual numbers? I mean, I can provide you additional information, but no numbers, as I said, a local street carrying 2,000 cars a day, in which we have just over 2,000 cars coming out of the entire subdivision a day. There will not be any streets that are overcome with traffic, according to the standards for local streets.
I understand understand. What did you call the yellow lines again?
Collector
Collector
streets.
streets. So right to the, if this is a due north thing here, right to the east is North 10th East. And
Right here.
that's 6th.
Oh, six.
Next
Oh,
one
here.
to the east.
To the
That's-
east, here. Yes. It runs right beside the property.
So here's where I struggle, and maybe it doesn't, maybe it's not applicable, you can help me get through that, but as I read in here, the minimum street width for your proposed neighborhood plot will be 36 feet, minimum street width. North 10th East has about 31 foot width, and so that being a collector street, it's up, and I told the council this earlier in a thing, but sometimes it's uncomfortable driving on that collector street. And so, as narrow as it is, I have to say that there's gonna be an impact on that street.
Okay, but you're not talking right here because we will improve that street, curb, gutter, sidewalk, we'll do whatever it needs to do to make that street wide enough. There's not curb and gutter there right now, right? So-
You're gonna buy everybody out.
Yeah,
But you're talking about down here
a
somewhere.
little south as people go into town, right,
Yeah.
into the services that they need.
My library.
Yeah, okay.
It's super narrow.
Hospital.
I think that's something Public Works needs to put on their list, I guess, because there might be needs for some. Somebody over there, am I talking man? No, well, there's a question for any kind of widening that you wanna do, whether it have to be a dedication of right of way, you know, what does that mean, how does that happen? But, I mean, that's an age-old question, we are often building subdivisions out in, well, not in towns like this, but out in the suburbs. And every street that you continue to go into the downtown is not improved and not large enough, and that's how, the highway districts and the cities, and I'm thinking ACHD because they have such a big budget, but that's how they prioritize, and say, oh my goodness, you know, now this is a project that's gonna go on to Lake Hazel, and Lake Hazel's only 2 lanes and it needs to be 5 lanes, right? Or 2 lanes in either way and a turn lane in the middle, so that is how when you pay impact fees, and that's how you get that funding, so I don't really have an answer for you as far as 31 feet, now, 31 foot wide street's a pretty wide street, and
No, it's not. 31? You're kidding.
so that's 16, yeah, okay, but you can still get 2 cars passing each other. And I'll tell you, parked cars on the side of the road are your best traffic control as far as speed goes. Yeah, I mean, I'm not discounting what you say, but, I mean, I've seen I live in the East End, but I've seen my North End neighbors parking cars on the street just for that reason, to get people to slow down, which I think is kinda dangerous, but they do it anyway. So, I wish I don't have a real answer for existing streets and the capacity of those streets, but they should, it's a collector, and that is something when you're looking at your street, your functional street map, something to kinda keep in mind. You know, are you putting collector status on streets that can't carry collector traffic, right? So, but I'm going off of this, and this is pretty new. So, yeah. And that is something, again, I think, you know, all the cities are looking at different ways that we found some places where we need to do some improvements. Let's see. So, here's, I really appreciate it. This is our plan that we proposed, and this is the plan that the P&Z saw, and this is the plan that everybody has commented on. I am aware with the staff, that there are some concerns about the density, and I'm very aware that there are some concerns maybe even about the mix of housing, lot sizes that would reflect in different housing. I've spent some time today talking to my client, Trilogy Development, and I believe we have an opportunity to do some compromising and probably a solution. I kinda wanna hear, because I have in mind what I think is a solution, but I wanna kinda hear what the neighbors have to say. And then I'd like to come back and propose what I think that solution might look like. I have a couple of things that I can show you afterwards that, actually the staff has, worked with us, so I can show you what we're talking about. It will be a reduction, we think substantial in the number of lots, and it will be maybe a different mix. So, but I do wanna hear from what the neighbors have to say, because it's going to be pretty much the same project, just a little different, so. If you'll let me.
I'm going to ask her a couple of questions
Sure.
before it goes to public hearing for comment.
And I'll be back for rebuttal too.
Am I to look at these smaller lots, and all of your lots, even the larger ones, will only have a 5-foot setback on any property line, on the side property line,
That's the minimum.
except for the street?
That's the minimum. That is, except for the street side, you're right. And then we've done a lot of landscaping so that we don't really have a lot of corner lots, because we like to put landscaping on the corners.
Right. So
But yes, so, I mean, legitimately, if you've got a lot that's 80 feet wide or 85 feet wide, you're probably not gonna have a 75-foot wide house.
Right,
But
but you have 100 lots that are your smaller, that are way under even a R4 subdivision that is only 36 foot wide.
yes. and
Those
that-
will all then be a 5-foot setback.
Yes, sir,
Cause you
they
can't
will.
build a house on it if it's our current 5 and 12.
No, those houses I showed you with the garages and the front doors and the building up above, those are 26-foot wide houses. Those are very specific, and that's
And
why
that's
that.
5-foot to 5-foot setbacks.
Yes, yeah.
So you have no setbacks.
Well, no, we have,
Well, you have your 5-foot, I realize
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
but for a,
so 10 feet between the houses.
Right,
So
exactly.
10 feet,
okay, so my problem with this is 5-foot setbacks, and those, how many of the small house lots would you reduce? That's what I'd like to know when you come back.
all right, and we'll talk about that.
Councilman Buddy?
I'm not gonna address my concerns yet, cause I wanna see what the citizens have to say, but maybe when the citizens are done, you could give each of us a minute or two to tell you where we stand and what we'd like to see. Okay?
All right, we're gonna open it up for the, public hearing. I apologize. So, Tiff, will you, or Mark Rock, hold on.
All right. We'll let your eyes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, so I'm gonna call your name, and know that if your name's not on here and you don't get called, you can still speak. I'm going to make sure everyone has a chance that wants to. But first off, we're gonna start with Charles Fairclough. Is it Fairclough?
Fairclough.
Fairclough. Yep, there's my first mistake.
Address.
Charles Fairclough, 2280 North 5th East. Mayor, City Council, thanks for the opportunity to come before you in regards to the proposed Thunderbolt Landing being built by CBH Homes. Let me start out by saying I'm not opposed to the development of the land in question, but I am opposed to the density of the housing that is being proposed in the area. I have several concerns with the proposed development, as it doesn't fall in line with the City of Mountain Home 2020 Comprehensive Plan. Let me first hit on Goal 1 in Chapter 6 when it discusses land use. It states to promote and approve orderly, compatible development that aligns with the goals of this comprehensive plan. The Thunderbolt Landing development fails to meet the goals of this comprehensive plan in many areas. As I read through the plan, the word small town appears often. Page 1 says facilitate development to foster the city's small town character. With reprioritization of goals and some action items already underway, this plan will transform into a transformative Mountain Home while ensuring that Mountain Home retains its small town identity that residents cherish. On page 8, it states, many choose to live in Mountain Home for its small town charm. Protecting and fostering the current small town feel was one of the most often seen comments during the public outreach campaign. Page 27, 4.8 Goal 1, to proactively manage growth by taking steps to maintain Mountain Home's small town character. Page 27, 4.8 Goal 2, promote density in areas near existing commercial and community development to capitalize on existing infrastructure. Encourage development in the areas that are environmentally compatible with nearby surroundings to protect the quality of life. My response to that, due to the proposed density of this development, It goes against the plan, and it isn't near existing commercial property, and it isn't compatible with the nearby communities, and it for sure doesn't protect the quality of life. Page 32, titled Planning for Growth, creates opportunities for communities to slowly increase density without radically changing the landscape. My response: when 85% of the proposed homes are less than R3 designation, this isn't slowly increasing density. So I'm running out of time, I'm gonna skip down to some bottom. Jane read a letter from Colonel Goodman that talks about #1 housing priority. I can tell you, I'm out of the base, and that is one of our housing priorities. But I didn't see where the commander said to disregard the 2020 comprehensive plan of Mountain Home. Jane talked about the traffic study and testimony with planning and zoning. She mentioned that COVID was taken into consideration, but we couldn't show that in the plan. Tonight, we talked about a different methodology that was taken. Nowhere in the plan does it talk about this. She mentions coming back with a different proposal at the end of the day, possibly. I hope at that time we start this process all over again, get it back to planning and zoning. Any questions? That's all I have. Thank you.
Nice timing, Christie.
All right, Laura Fairclough.
I'm gonna hold off if I can.
No worries. John Andrews.
Yeah. I don't think I can embellish those comments any greater. I just want to state as a citizen, I live at 1495 North 6th East. And when the lady says those streets are A and B and they carry maybe 35 or 40 cars a day, and then she says I can sustain 200 to 2,500 cars down these, I don't want to see that many cars running by my house. That's unacceptable to me. And I'm not against the proposal. Development is here, it's all over the country. I have a friend that lives in Mountain City, Nevada, if any of you know where that is, and land is selling like hotcakes. It's happening. It's coming to Mountain Home. You guys are elected to take our consideration into your decision making. I'm telling you, I don't want that many cars coming down my street.
Elaine, you're on deck, Elaine, but actually, nope, it is you.
Change number.
Come on.
I really that
Third grade teacher, he's so proud of you.
Wait.
Journals.
Sorry.
I'm not staying. I'm just gonna tell you, I think it's gonna be repetitive what I have to say, and if there's something that I think needs to be added, I'd like to do that at the end. So I think I'm just gonna keep saying whatever needs to be. That's Elaine.
That is Linda Bennett.
Oh, your turn. Come on, Linda.
You'll be fine.
Thank you for putting aside one whole day for us, because you can tell there's a lot of response out there. I'm not against the development either, I'm just against this development. The houses are too close, it's not livable. If you've got a camper, a boat, a jet ski, whatever you've got, there's no place to put it but in the road. If you look at 8th North, over there by the bowling alley, those homes have 40-foot lots. They went over and measured. 40-foot lots, and those are little houses. And now you wanna cut down to 36 and put a 2-story up. It's gonna look like a maze of lab rats live there, because they said that they will be fencing around the whole area. You can imagine what that's gonna look like. She also said there would be no sprinklers installed. In that front yard, that's where they're gonna do their landscaping and their trees, no park strips, which is a good thing. But that's gonna turn into a mess. It's either gonna be a mud hole, cause whoever's out there washing their car is gonna let the water run down the street, or some little kid's gonna be playing in the gutter and let it run. It's not a wise use. You've gotta be able to get your cars and your vehicles, your recreationals off the road. And there's no room to put it, except for in your driveway, and then how are you gonna drive? Because with the 5-foot setback, that's just barely enough room for your garbage cans. Their plan came out that those small homes are for 2.5 people. Okay, you've got 2 adults and a child, and as soon as that child starts to walk, they're gonna move, and now you're gonna end up with a house that's gonna sit for a while, because who's gonna take it? Seniors can't use it because of the stairs, disabled can't use it because of the stairs, and so it's just not a workable plan. They're not affordable, she's already told us that. So if it's not affordable, then at least make something that's livable. Mr. Brennan asked for some alternative ideas. Okay, I came up with a plan, okay, if you've got 7 lots, cut them down to 5. Give everybody an extra 12 feet or 9 feet or something, widen them out a little bit. And I just started doing a couple of sections where I made some adjustments. And in 2008, when they were first having discussion about this, it was recommended to be 171 lots, not 238. So I would suggest that they cut down on the lots, give people some livable space, make it someplace that's gonna be nice where people wanna live, and also it'll be a better resale value if it's worthwhile. Thank you. And I'm gonna leave that for maybe some ideas before we can cut straight back.
Liberty Troush.
I'm Liberty and I live on Trail Ridge Court, so I'm gonna address the white elephant in the room, water. Where are you gonna get it? We don't have it and it's running out fast, and you're planning on putting how many additional people here that are gonna be using those water resources? You just can't make water magically disappear or drill another well, cause that water's gotta come from somewhere and we don't have it. And the Planning and Zoning Commission already turned this down 6-1. So if we're not gonna listen to the Planning and Zoning Committee, why do we have one? And you and I now are standing farther apart than these houses are going to be. So that'll just give you a little view of how close these houses are gonna be, because we're farther apart than these houses are. And so that's thank you.
Debbie Swearingen?
Swearinger, whatever. Mayor Sykes, City Council members, my name is Debbie Swearingen, I live at 1795 North 6th East here in Mountain Home. And I wanna thank you for allowing me to state my opposition to the Thunderbolt Landing development as proposed. I echo my neighbors' concerns on the adverse effects on our public services. Having lived on North 6th East for over 30 years, I have witnessed a great reduction in water pressure as last phase of Bel Air was developed. So I can't imagine adding 238 additional units to that. However, my biggest concern is that because of the high density and reduction in standards, public safety in said subdivision will be at risk. Given a reduction in lot frontage from a minimum of 70 to 36 feet, there will be a great number of vehicles parked on the street. Along with the high density of the subdivision and reduction of minimum street width from 39 to 36 feet, traffic will be constricted. School buses, US postal vehicles, garbage trucks, repair vehicles, delivery vehicles such as Amazon and FedEx, UPS, snow plows and street sweepers, emergency vehicles, and general residential traffic will be constricted and impaired. This increased risk to children riding bikes and skateboards, people jogging and walking dogs, and residents pulling out of driveways onto the street. I would love to see the reference land developed into a quality residential subdivision, but for the reasons stated, this proposal is a can of worms that I'm not sure we want to open. The people of Mountain Home should not settle for something requiring so many variances to our standards that have been set. Our current residents of the surrounding area and future residents of the development deserve better than that. Thank you.
Ron Swearingen?
There he is. Hey, how you doing, David?
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity. My name is Ron Swearingen. I live at 1795 North 6th East here in Mountain Home. Live I've lived there over 32 years, and 31 of it with the lady that was just up there. I'm a lifelong resident of Mountain Home. I haven't lived there all my life because I'm not dead yet. I've been here 72.5 years. As most of you know, I'm not against growth at all. I was a real estate broker for 20 years here, and did subdivisions in the community and county both. And then I was the Director of Economic Development for the City of Mountain Home for 19 years. I've literally participated in scores of public hearings similar to this one, dealing with residential and commercial developments. I'm hopeful the proposed site gets annexed and developed. However, the proposed subdivision is not compatible with the surrounding area and should not be approved as presented because of the, in part, because of the following. The proposed PUD designation is simply a smokescreen designed to turn medium-density zoning, R3, into high-density development. R3 standards calls for a minimum lot size of 6,500 square feet. This development reduces that minimum lot size to 3,420 square feet. 47.4% reduction in the size of the lot. That's from the minimum required in R3 of 6,500. So if you take 50 R3 lots at 6,500, which again is the minimum, you can certainly have 8,000 square foot lots in R3. But if you just use the minimum, 50 lots, and then go by their new proposed standards, that all of a sudden gives them 95 lots in an R3 zone. Not exactly R3 anymore, is it? R3 standard also calls for maximum lot coverage of 35% of the lot. Well, they want to reduce the size of the lot by almost half and then cover it with 50%. So they're increasing the lot coverage by over 40%, go from 35 up to 50. The minimum, excuse me, the street frontage, street frontage being reduced from 70 feet down to 36 feet is a reduction of 48.6%. How do they still get it by calling this an R3 subdivision? Most of those items that they want to use variances for don't even meet R4 standards. Picture, if you can, a dwelling. In fact, we saw some pictures. A dwelling sitting on a 36-foot wide lot with a 20-foot garage means the home can only be 6 feet wider than the garage. Scores of these lined up on a street would not be attractive. The street widths proposed at 8% narrower than the 39-foot standard. I'm concerned where parking will take place. Concerns for the safety of children, pedestrians, and residents are valid. Ms. Suggs, on behalf of Trilogy Development, submitted a letter to Mr. Cherry with the annexation, zoning, and subdivision application. In part, it states, and I quote, "Thunderbolt Landing subdivision is a residential development that will meet all the requirements of the R3 zone, except those outlined. Obviously, those outlined exceptions are monumental and won't allow the area to be in concert with the surrounding subdivisions. Mr. Mayor and council members, I urge you to reject Thunderbolt Landing subdivision as presented." Thank you.
Just a minute. It's a nice place and they will come.
Alan Carroll.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, I just want to play a little bit of devil's advocate. I'm not necessarily for or against the entire subdivision, but as you've heard me speak about before, I'm very much for affordable housing. And I'm sorry, I live at 1750 American Legion Boulevard here in Mountain Home. So I'm very much for affordable housing. Unfortunately, lumber costs are up 288%. Electrical wiring, et cetera, is also up about the same percentage. So we're looking at 4 times the price. In regards to the question that was asked, what a Corey Barton home is currently selling for, it's right around $400,000 in the 1,500 square foot range, I believe is what I saw listed recently. So as I had mentioned, affordable isn't even a question anymore. We just need houses. Our houses are being filled by out-of-towners. I can testify for this. I have rentals here in town. I've sold a few of them recently. They're Boise people putting offers every time. As a matter of fact, some of them have even canceled their offers in the middle of the process because a better option came open. So if we can ease some of that pressure, even with houses that might be outpriced for those that live here currently, that will leave additional housing open for those who live here. Let's see, some of the other things, people are going to be moving here whether we like it or not. Personally, I don't like it as much that they're moving this fast, but we're seeing them, and we have to ease that economic pressure. A sub 1,500 square foot house seems to me a normal middle income house size. If you have a couple of kids, a dog and a cat, you know, somewhere plus or minus 300 feet in that range. Unfortunately, economics have changed what affordable means in this market. The modern look argument, I've got to say I've lived a lot of places while I was in the service, and I've seen some really cool neighborhoods that were done just this dense, and I've seen some really crummy neighborhoods that were a lot wider. I don't personally feel that the density is as big of an issue, although I do agree with every person who has a concern with the infrastructure, with the roads, the water, et cetera, et cetera. So I know those things would definitely need to be resolved in a future plan, as the last gentleman who spoke mentioned. And then one of the last things I really want to say is that myself included, it's very easy for us who are established here in town to fight against more housing and growth in Mountain Home. But economics here are going to get really ugly. That's how I feel about it. I see that our middle class are being pushed into poor class, and poor class are being pushed completely out of the houses in Mountain Home. And I believe that developments, whether this one or not, are very much needed to ease some of that pressure to hopefully provide more housing in the area. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Terry Manduka.
I'm gonna wait just a minute before I come up, please. Is that all right? Making some more notes.
Chris Alzola.
Hello. My name is Chris Alzola. I live in the county, but I have an office on 6th Street, 410 North 6th, and I have family members that live in town. So my concern with the development is water, traffic, and growth. And John, I don't think you'll have to worry about pickups because there's no place for them to park in this area. So, some of my things I'm gonna go over. I have cherry-picked some of the things from the water study and the codes because I think they are a concern, and so I did cherry-pick things that I thought were of a concern that you guys need to pay attention to. After reading the Water Facilities Planning Study done by Keller and Associates in 2019, these were some of the things that Keller had identified as deficiencies, and I think that you should look at them carefully, which is low pressure, fire protection, and water supply. In the report, it talked about low pressure and additional transmission pipeline improvements for new developments. Don't know if that's been addressed. As the city continues to grow, it's important to ensure water systems grow in a planned manner. Is growing north and south of town a planned manner? I don't know. As population grows, system demands will risk of dropping below 40 PSI if one of the large wells is offline. Low pressure is identified in the area of this development. They talk about firm capacity is established to serve an additional 1,850 EDUs. Not sure how many of the EDUs have been used since the 2019 and how many will be used for this plan. But a new well would be needed for every 1,580 EDUs. The city, this is in the plan, this is in the Keller study plan. The city is anticipating introducing industrial entities into the city and domestic growth, which would require 2 additional wells within the next 20 years. In planning for the additional wells, the city should begin several years before the wells are needed to ensure water rights, permitting, and testing are completed. If nothing is done, curtailment of water is necessary. Now, in my opinion, when you talk about EDUs, and there may be enough EDUs, we need to look at water. We live in a desert, and I am ag, and I'll tell you that right up front, but we are in a desert, we're in a drought, and that's not gonna change. So So then, after that, I looked at the Idaho Department of Water Resources site to look up the water rights. I noticed that this property is not in the city's planned place of use boundaries for the, am I being beat?
Go ahead. Keep going. Go ahead.
Finish your sentence.
So the city has a place of use boundaries for their waters. This is not inside the place of use boundaries. And I'm not positive that there's some of this stuff that's already been annexed in that south of town is in the boundaries map. This was, the only thing that I saw on the Idaho Department of Water Resources site was correspondence that was done in 2014. I haven't seen anything that was done lately. Then I looked at some of the codes, and which, again, like everyone has said, pretty much however you want to vote is how you can read them. Promote orderly growth, protects and enhances property values for the community. Is it? Is it not? Everybody can, you can go over that kind of stuff. Preliminary plat review. Fire, schools, and other agencies need to review this. Has that been done? Have we talked to the schools? Have the schools got in on this? Water resources for the water rights? Access to public streets, adequate turnarounds for fire and garbage trucks. That's necessary. Has it been done? Essential services for the traffic study. It talks about full width strips, streets, traffic lights, and determined by the city council. We have 5 schools south of this development that the parents will drive their kids to school. That's a lot of traffic during school time. Installation of fiber optics infrastructure. After watching the Zoom meeting, it was talked about that the homeowners would pay $3,000 to $3,500. Is this, because of it being in there, will they not pay that? And if so, can the contractor do the monthly payment plan? Water right fees. To ensure adequate and safe supply of water, it talks about $2,000 per acre for the 47 acres. That's $94,000. That doesn't go very far in water world. The city and the county have testified to the state that we are in a drought and we need recharge for our wells and water. Does this work for subdivisions? I don't know. Putting more in, I don't know what's right, but I just ask you guys to think about the people that are already living here and how it's going to impact them. Please don't leave us a mess, because the developer is going to be gone. Thank you.
Becky Garvey.
Hello, I'm sure most of you all know me. My name is Becky Garvey. I live at 2220 North 6th East. I'm going to kind of take a little bit of a different stance. Mayor and City Council, thank you guys for listening. I'm not going to belabor the traffic study. I think enough people have done that. I would like to discuss a little bit about the House Bill 389 and how that could potentially impact our going forward in building. I emailed the city council members an article concerning that bill, and I appreciate the 2 that acknowledged my email. Makes me feel like we are valued. So the House bill, from what I understand in talking to some people at the county, is going to potentially affect our city budget. This will do more to limit the ability of smaller or rural taxing districts to address growth than it will limit the budgets of larger growing municipalities, potentially. The House Bill 389 prevents growth from paying for itself. When undeveloped areas are improved, the value is assessed and it generates more property tax revenue. Historically, taxing districts have been able to include such development in their budget calculations at 100% of the improved value, generating taxes to pay for services they consume. House Bill 389 limits the new value on the tax roll to 90% of the value for new construction and annexed property. Without long-term planning and smart growth, this could force existing development, us current taxpayers, to subsidize this new growth. House Bill 389 suggests to address expansion of municipal budgets by imposing an absolute 8% cap on budgets. The absolute cap does more to hurt small taxing districts than it does to limit larger surrounding areas. Many taxing districts are run in a shoestring and struggle to meet the demands for existing services. To them, an 8% cap on budget growth means they cannot expand services, hire, or undertake capital improvements to serve new developments. Fire districts, library districts, and other taxing districts are prohibited from increasing funding for necessary services. These are all issues that, while this doesn't pertain to the subdivision, because again, I think I've spoken enough about it, these are all issues that, as the council members, I ask you guys to look at in our future. This is a lot bigger than I think anybody really realizes. And there are moratoriums, to my knowledge, being put in place in smaller communities to see what this is gonna look like. So, just my 2 cents on our future. Thank you.
I'm gonna slaughter it. Lori Mabla.
I'm good. I'll wait.
Can you tell me how it's pronounced, just for my own?
Mayor Sykes knows.
Good. Her husband, or I should assume.
Try again. Maybe you'll get it right the second time.
I did.
Monlock.
Keith Monlock.
Everything I've wanted to say has already been said numerous times.
Thank
You don't have a cousin here or something. Kim Middleton.
We're on the agenda, but not for, I have nothing to say on this issue.
Christopher
Perez, it's the same scenario.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you.
Brian Orban.
Mayor and council, good evening. I'm speaking on behalf of myself as well as my wife, who cannot be here this evening, but more importantly, my daughter, who deals with autism and cannot be here tonight because of severe chronic social anxiety that leaves her disabled. I'm calling tonight, I'm here tonight for a couple of reasons. A concern that I don't think has been addressed, or maybe it has, was why that land has not been developed in all these years. My sources, according to the Historical Society, had indicated that that soil had been contaminated with waste that had come from the silver mines north of town. I don't know if that's true or not, but the information did seem to resonate quite a bit and keep repeating itself. I don't know if that issue has been addressed, but if we're going to build houses on a contaminated piece of soil, probably not a good idea. Having driven, and my house is at 1510 North 6th. I live at ground zero, by the way, on East 10th and North 6th. When we're talking about the number of cars coming down that street, we seem to forget one important thing. That's the noise that we deal with. Every day, my daughter is subjected to countless incidents where trucks come by with their stereos blaring, where the windows in my house shake. And that sets her off. If anybody has ever dealt with a child who has an autistic breakdown, it is not a pretty sight. They are out of control, they yell, they scream. We need to do something about that. And if we have another subdivision coming in where I've got 20, 50, 100 more cars per day coming down that street, how many of them are going to abide by city ordinance? How many of them are going to follow the law? How many of them are going to have those loud car exhausts, which, by the way, at 7 o'clock, I've checked the time, our meeting was almost interrupted by somebody driving down with that exhaust going. And we've got a door and a wall, we still could hear it. This is what my family deals with every single day. I got woken up at 2:30 this morning because somebody drove by with their stereo blowing. Okay, I'm sorry, that's above the 65 decibel range that's allowed. I will close though by saying one very important thing. When it comes to affordable houses, we cannot afford to become the next ketchup. We need affordable housing. We need to do it right. We need to do it smart. The airmen at the Air Force Base depend on it. Our folks that live and work in this community cannot be living in tents, as some of the people in Ketchup have suggested. especially our medical specialists here in town. We deserve better. Thank you.
Now we will come back to Elaine Isaac.
Again, it's kind of repetitive because we were pretty much addressed the concerns about it, and thank you, gentlemen, for allowing me to speak back. But I echo what Debbie Swearengin had to say in public safety. As an avid bike rider, I take my life in my hands every time I rode in Mountain Home. 36-foot wide roads are just going to make that more dangerous. And what you have is children living in subdivisions. If I, as an adult, have a hard time negotiating traffic and irresponsible drivers, imagine what children will be having to deal with. So I think your collector roads are not sufficient for the amount of traffic. Density is a problem, but I do support the idea of growth and the subdivision. Thank you.
Carrie?
Sure.
Snap.
Sorry, legs. Hi everybody, Terry Manduca, 1984 North 10th East. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. A lot of the points that I would hit on have been addressed. There were a couple though. I just wonder, you know, the traffic study just seems like one day during the pandemic when the base was half on, half off, it couldn't be valid to me. Seems to me like the industry standard was like a 3-day minimum. Not a roadway expert, but I've been told that that's the minimum. So I question the traffic study. Has the city ever completed pavement condition index study to take a look at the condition of the asphalt on 10th and 6th? I live there, I walk there, I don't think it would pass the test right now. So when we go to develop this, most of the construction will probably come in on the 10th Street side, right? So is there a plan, and who's gonna be responsible for that accelerated deterioration from the dump trucks, the concrete trucks, and the construction materials coming onto the site? Just a question. Infrastructure. Can the city share peak water flows and sanitary sewer capacity? It doesn't seem like it was that long ago that our sewer lagoon breached and we had an issue. So I'm wondering, is there a plan to expand on our sewer lagoons? Will the existing systems have the capacity to take on what's gonna come out of this subdivision? Because a lot of that is infrastructure on East 17th, 16th, and 15th is from the 60s, okay? Many of the other things that I was gonna speak at have already been covered, so I'll say this, in 3 minutes, it's not enough to answer all the questions that I certainly have after poking my nose into this. In light of the proposed changes to this development that we're just learning of tonight, I would like to request to have any decision on Thunderbolt Landing removed from tonight's consent agenda. This is such a controversial proposal. The city needs to move forward responsibly and with complete transparency. I would like to see a citizen advisory committee of persons living in the impacted neighborhoods formed to work alongside planning and zoning and the city to ensure that we are all good stewards of our community and we're not approving growth that we will come to regret in the future. And that's all I have to say.
Would anyone else like to speak?
Can I ask a question? Hi, I'm
State your name and address.
Rex Hunziker, 1965 North 6th East. Thanks for letting me ask a question. So, and ma'am, I forget your name again.
Jane.
Jane. So, what I was curious about is, in this proposed development, are there any rules or regulations around out-of-state developers coming in and buying up these properties and turning them into rents? Because it seems to me, with what's going on in the real estate market right now, that there's a lot of that going on. And it would be a shame if we're trying to open up a proposed development here for people to really truly buy homes for the first time, to have a bunch of out-of-state developers come in and buy up all the properties and turn them into rentals. So I'm just wondering if any of that's being considered in this development. Thank you.
Thanks, Rex. Can I get your last name again?
Hunziker, Hunziger.
Would anyone else like to speak? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Councilman, my name's Bill Houston, and I live on the corner of War Eagle and Third is one of the major north-south ways to get from the residential area to the city and vice versa. And one thing our guest speaker mentioned was having 280 cars. There is no subdivision with only one car per household. There's generally always at least two and sometimes more. So we need to look at that as far as any traffic studies are done. And they're not small cars anymore, they're mostly pickups and SUVs. So anyway, this is going to be a problem on our current streets. Also, they mentioned building houses for the air base, the airmen and officers that are assigned. There's no young airman that's going to be able to afford a $400,000 house on his salary. Amen. Hardly any. And if you're considering a $50,000 average income for many of the people in Mountain Home, that same thing is going to apply. There's nobody going to loan you money to buy a $400,000 house on a $50,000 income. Okay, so what you're going to be looking at, if this subdivision is built, you're going to be looking at out-of-staters buying this. You're going to be looking at commercial developers buying these and possibly turning them into rentals. But we're not solving the problem of houses for our people with this subdivision. Thank you.
Good job. Very good, Bill.
Bill, we want you to sign.
Oh.
We want your autograph.
You can sign it. With love. So, would anyone else like to speak?
I'm Maurice Souay, 1890 Bel Air Court. Lived there for 35 years. So, I'm just speaking about, we are walkers in that home. And we see right now, with the mailboxes on the street, smaller wide, not as wide sidewalks, that two people cannot walk that. I would like to see streets in this, I don't mind this subdivision going in, but I'd like to see a wide street like from on North 6th between East 10th to the end, to be at least that wide, because two cars cannot park on the, you know what I mean. And having, I see RVs on the street all the time, taking up spots. You aren't supposed to park an RV for, 72 hours or more, and we see that all the time. We see parked cars with, their noses sticking out in the sidewalk, so you gotta go around that. Mailboxes are blocking the street that you cannot walk along. And I just think that if it's a small town, we want bigger streets and smaller houses. And that's my thought on it.
Thank you.
You want me to wrap?
Yeah, that'd be great.
He's coloring in his own lines.
Would anyone else like to speak?
Brock, I have a question. I wear two hats, so I need legal advice on this one. I am not only the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission, but I'm also a member of the voting community. So, can I talk as one of the chairs of the Planning and Zoning Commission to
No.
the City Council?
You cannot talk as a P&Z chair. You can talk as a citizen.
Okay, then I would like to come up and talk to the citizen.
Okay, Councilman
that.
Of always. My name is Christopher Waller. I live on 890 West Ninth South. Does this development affect me personally? No. But I have problems with water rights. I have problems with the water that's currently going on in our community. I am working with the county commissioners with the current water issues. I don't know if you've been up to Little Camas, there's no water. Long Tom, there's no water, and there's no water coming in. And if this density is going to push our water system, we have to first consider what is our water issue is going to be a problem that we need to look at as a city first. I'm not affected by the density that's going to be coming from this because I live on the completely other side of town. But as a citizen, I'm going to charge you as public officials to listen to the people that are, because they will be affected the most. And if compromise is here, we should be able to compromise, right? Nobody in here has said this is a development they don't want to see. It's a development that they would like to see changed to fit the density of the surrounding community. So as a citizen, I am asking you, as public officials, to listen to the people that are affected most. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Brock, I got a signature coming your way, buddy.
Oh, he wants 3 X's and O's. Mr. Mayor, no one needs to know. Okay. Would anybody else like to get up? Hearing none, I want to tell you thank you. Seriously, the level of civility from you guys was exceptional, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. We've been in other meetings that wasn't so civil, but I really appreciate it on the city's behalf. With that, we will move back to Jane. Come on down. Oh, sorry. Look, Councilman, you got anything really quick? Sorry. Go ahead, Councilman buddy.
First off, I'd like to second his comments on how many of you came out tonight and gave us your opinions and the well thought out opinions that you gave us. I truly appreciate that. That's a great thing. Ms. Suggs, I appreciate all you've done and where we stand in this issue, and thank you for your professionalism and some of the things that you said in your comments that I'm going to reflect on here real quick, so thank you very much. I think we can all agree that the expectation for that area is that it would be developed someday. And I think we all understand that we want to do it in a thoughtful manner. And I think that's why, based on what I heard, I could count that the 20 of you that spoke to us all have that same basic thought, that this development is necessary, it's planned, but we want to do it thoughtfully. And as I was listening and I looked at it, Brock will tell you from day one, I've been questioning density. And over the last few weeks, as we've gotten to this point, we've really been working and seeing what we can do. And I'm not alone. There's a lot of folks that have been working on this issue. I think we all agree when we're talking about the fact that this is going to be developed that we need housing and we need, the base needs it. I think the point was made there that as people move into these, they'll free up other houses, so the community needs it. And these are for people that do come in from out of the city, and these are for a lot of people that are here. Because when we look at a lot of families that need to move and that want to, that their families are growing, they need options. And so I think some additional housing will work. But like I say, I've been cognizant of the density since day one. And I appreciated when Ms. Suggs said that this plan that we talked about earlier achieves many or most of our city goals. I'd like to go a little bit better than many or most. And I think that, based on what she's saying, I think that we can. If I were just to kinda talk about here, I know there's other areas that are looking at development, and I think consistent development is a key. I like the R2 lots on the edge. If I were just talking right now, I might go R2 on the other side, maybe a little bit more R2s, and then go to some standard R3s. And then if we had to in one or two smaller places, maybe a little bit of a different market. For the most part, I think most of us are looking at a primarily R2 and R3 subdivision. Neither in support or opposing the plan, I do think there were some good issues brought up about water. I think it's good that we're working through our city budget right now, and we have in this current city budget for another well. And we are planning the next well after that. We're already planning out the well that's in the budget this year, and then we're also looking at the next well, which would increase, tell me, how's that, 12 or 1,500 EDUs per well? I believe it's 1,200, so the well for an additional 1,200, and we already have another.
How many EDUs per new well?
Currently, we have 1,740, and then it'd be 1,500.
So we currently have 1,700 available, and then we're building the well for another 1,500, and then we're planning for another 1,500. So that'll help.
Per our current water rights.
Correct. Thank you very much, Mayor. So, I'm sure we'll have some other comments, but, I appreciate in your opening comments, you said that we've got some room, and those are just some of the things I like, and as we work forward on this, as opposed to being maybe the voice from behind some of this, I mean, we obviously can't form a quorum, but maybe a council member can be on this, and we can figure this out, so that's where I stand on this. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You, Councilman?
Oh, wait, okay.
Okay, well, that would,
Councilman Kane?
Brock won't even talk to me anymore. I've been such a thorn in his side. That,
Me too.
as most of you know, I used to be the building official back here before I was elected to this position. And one of my stances was some smart growth. I'm not sure if this is smart growth or not, without some tweaks to it. We've already made sewer preparations for it, the lagoons. They are in the process of getting the last wall that they're gonna need for another lagoon, which is good because as Councilman Bundy said, that we need water and we need the sewer locations. The base is very important to us. We need housing for the base. Some small lots are definitely needed for the airmen, but not at $400,000. They can't afford that. Hell, I can't afford that. To where I think this can be a viable project, but it needs some major tweaking to it. And I want to thank all of you for being here and letting us know what you think about it. Jane, I don't know what to say about your position. It's tough. Good. Thank you.
I'll leave here.
I guess I kind of struggle with the right timing of my comments, I suppose, but since we're jumping in, there are a couple things that of concern to me that I guess I'd like to talk about, which is the street parking that everybody's talked about, and a five foot setback on each side of each house leaves 10 foot in feet. Sorry, with potential mailboxes. I mean, a truck is longer than 10 feet, and Miss Suggs, I mean no offense by this, but Corey Barton typically does not make a house that a truck can fit in the garage. The depth of the garage with the HVAC system sitting right up front, typically there's no large vehicles in the garage, and so that leads to driveway and most typically roadway parking. And so when you have a minimum or a maximum of 10 feet with whatever else people have mentioned, mailboxes and garbage cans, those garbage cans are going to get set beyond the parked vehicles and reduce the width of the street as well. So I definitely agree that the density needs to be looked at there. Several people have talked about water. I just wanted to touch base that I have done an in-depth review with the Public Works Director about water. The water rights we have, there's no problem with this neighborhood and the water rights. What I would, during our deliberations, I would like to talk to the Public Works Director about the pressure issue that you have addressed in that area of town. So, to me, the pressure area is more important than do we have the water. The documents that we have with this month's information on it, we have the water. And the variances are crazy. From, I'm not using the exact number, but like 70 to 36 foot wide lots. And the finding of facts that we had talks about minimum standards. So those are super small lots, and with the setbacks, it's gonna be hard for that to happen. A red asterisk some of your comments, not that all the others are important, but Rex, you talked about rentals, and I guess it is my opinion that we can't control that. If somebody wants to come in and buy a house and put it up for rental, that's beyond our control. So we know that's gonna happen. This is a military town, and so people are gonna buy them up if they can afford them, to rent them out and make money. So I guess I'll yield the rest of my comments for our deliberation.
Mayor, I'll wait until I see Jane's, I think, compromise. The one thing I would appreciate is all our constituents have been very polite, and I like that we are all pro-growth, pro-development. I don't think I heard anyone say we're totally against this, so there has to be this compromise.
And everyone, we have a communications director that we're trying to put out more information for you guys. We want to make sure that you have the most up-to-date current information. Mr. Swearingen and I had an email back and forth when he was talking about the subdivision, and I talked to him about, you know what, I hear ya, streets. Mrs. Swearingen asked me, do you have a 5-year plan? And so we got with the executive leadership team, and we do have a 5-year plan for streets. This year will be 3rd Street, the rest of the downtown. Next year, part of it, correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, would be Jackson's right here to finish this off in here, and then the 6th Street all the way up to 19th Street. Then after that would be 10th Street to repave, redo all those. And then after that, was it 12? I can't remember, but we have a plan to make sure that we rehab all this street. We've put a lot of money into reconstruction of the streets here starting this year. Oh, it's not that we haven't done it and tried to do it in the past, but as you know, things get pulled. This is the first year that this team has been able to get a whole goal together when it comes to the water, the sewer, the streets. This year, you'll see a lot more things happening with the city of Mountain Home. So I just want you guys to know that. And we'll definitely throw out more information as this comes forward. But I just wanted to give you kind of a short synopsis of kind of the futuristic about Mountain Home. With that, I'm gonna turn it over to Jane. Jane, what do you got for us?
Mr. Mark, can we have the lights turned down again?
Sure.
Typically, I'm going to spend a few minutes just in rebuttal to the comments that have been made. I think you've already done quite a good job of that, but I just wanted to make sure that I highlighted some things as well, not everybody's comments, but before we talk about a compromise solution, I just want to make sure that I'm so glad to hear about the water and that the work is being done with Public Works. You know, one of the things that we talked about when we were at P&Z was we had Public Works say, hey, we've reviewed this and we are comfortable with this. The same thing with the street widths. The emergency services are fine with this. 36-foot wide streets are not too narrow. We're asking for that because that's less maintenance for you. Over the course of time, that will actually be a significant less maintenance for you. So we taught the emergency services you can park on both sides of that street and still have plenty of room for cars to pass each other and for emergency services to go through. So I'm glad to see that that's been kind of looked at. Let's see, you know, we were talking about the lawns and keeping them green. And one of the things, you know, we will be having sprinklers in the lawns, but that'll be the home builder that will do sprinkler systems, and it won't be a PI system, a pressurized irrigation system, because we don't have those water rights. So it will be using city water. Again, one of the things that we were doing, of course, was building more house so you have less lawn on the smaller lots. So there were a lot of comments about these impacts to our public services, and I think that, I feel like we've gotten a really good handle on that with your work in making improvements to streets and to our water system and to our sewer system, so I don't wanna belabor that anymore. One of the things that kinda hit me, we kept talking about $400,000 houses are not affordable. And those are the smaller houses, but nobody wants the smaller houses, so what we're talking about, I have to say, as we reduce density and as we make houses larger, they are becoming more and more less affordable. How do I say that? They're becoming more expensive. So if you think a $400,000 home is not affordable, go out to a Corey Barton sub right now that has 1,500 square foot houses on the market for $480,000. So, I mean, if that's really what you're after, then those are the orange lots and the red lots. The red lots. Those are the standard lots. So, I mean, one of the things to think about is to say, God, that's way too many houses and we need affordable housing. You are actually talking about two different things. I mean, I just need people to recognize that we can't, I don't think we can have it. And there are no $300,000 houses, like I said before. I think that somebody was talking about something that was close to my heart, walking those public streets. We are putting in that nice 10-foot wide pathway, along the east side. And mailboxes, we have, I call them gang boxes, but they're cluster boxes. And one of the things we've done is we've actually worked with the postmaster, and he's approved of our locations. And you see where we have these little pathways that run between the lots, and that's a really good place to put them because you get people from all around that area to go to the cluster boxes. So those work out well, so you don't have the mailboxes in front of every home. I'm a walker, so that's, let's talk about the contaminated soil. Yes, there were some mine tailings put on the property. We have a letter from DEQ saying that has been cleared. And that is something this developer hired someone else to make sure that NTI, and I don't think they call themselves that now. I can't remember their name. Atlas, is that it?
It's Atlas.
Yeah, so they're now, they work with DEQ, and that is a clear site. And we have a letter, we've sent it to the city, and that was a long time coming, so that is a clean site. So if anybody tells you there's a problem, there isn't any longer. And yes, I don't think that we have a problem of being Ketchum, but I worry about that too. On almost every city I'm working, because we are finding ourselves in a place where our wages don't really support our home prices right now. So let's see. Becky Garvey's right, and I know y'all dealt with this too. The House bill is impactful. Caldwell took the nuclear approach and did a moratorium. But I see Meridian doing some things that will work for me. In fact, I've had a project approved by them, deferred, and then finally approved because we were surrounded by city. And they said our services, so this is one of those situations where services are available. So I don't think that the House bill is impactful as if we were building someplace in the outer reaches of the city. At least that's my opinion. But I know that is something you're gonna grapple with your budgets these days. So we've tried to follow that a little bit. Yes, we've heard from the Public Works, we've heard from Fire and Garbage. They've looked at our street, they can use the streets the way we've designed them. The schools actually had a reduction in their enrollment recently, so I don't think we have a problem with school capacity at all.
Homeschooling.
You're all coming back.
That is awesome. And there's an elementary school actually within walking distance, so that's kinda nice. Let's see.
Which one?
I saw it on the map, I can't remember the name of it. It's just, south and west of us. Thank you. Let's see. Yeah, we were talking about number of cars. Mr. Houston said, most people have a couple cars or more, but we do our traffic counts in trips per day, so it doesn't really matter how many cars you have. It's about 10 trips per day per household in a single family home. And so that's how we do our traffic counts. We don't go and count each house and how many cars they have. So that is a general, well-established Institute of Traffic Engineers, kind of transportation engineers manual that they use. That's been updated not too long ago. So if I can tell you what we have up our sleeve, and I don't know if it's enough. But we are looking, oh, we got lots of pins here. I'm gonna go, okay. So here was our plan, colored up, the one that you have behind you. And shows the big lots and the red lots and the orange lots. With the staff's help, and Brock, thank you for your patience with me on getting this. What we're looking at now looks like, I don't think it actually works on, oh, it does, good for you.
We're fancy.
So, well, I don't know if I got the right one. So what we had, there you go. So what we had looked at doing is actually making these larger lots here, looking at larger lots here, actually kind of making more medium-sized lots here, getting rid of those smaller lots here. And what we ended up doing was coming up with a reduction of 16%. And I didn't put this on the drawing that you did, Brock, that you helped me with. So instead of 238 lots, we're talking about 200 lots. And we're doing a split that's more of a third, a third, a third for the different sizes. So we still do have some of the smaller lots. And we still will be using the 5-foot side yard setbacks, because you're right, those 36-foot wide lots, we cannot put more than 5 feet on the side and have that product. So and then we are looking at these red lots here being our standard lots. Of course, what we're trying to do is go back and rethink our perimeter and see if we can't get some larger lots in our perimeters. Especially up here. There are a couple of places where we looked like that we were going to maybe take 2 of those 50-foot lots and make them 100-foot wide. I don't think we'll do that. I think if we have a series of, say, 5 of those 50-foot wide lots, we might get 3 lots or 6, it won't be, those lots won't be double in size, those 50-foot wide lots. So that's why we come up with the 200. That is something that I'm authorized to approve, get you to approve tonight. We would really appreciate that. And we could walk away with that, basically saying a limit to the number of lots, because we're doing the PUD, and with the limit to like a third, kind of generally a third. If you want to adjust that number, I had 64 of the big lots, 68 of the medium-sized lots, and 68 of the smaller. If you want to adjust those numbers a little bit, I can adjust those. But we're talking about a 16% reduction. Again, trying to keep some affordable lots there and still reduce the density. I don't know, I will hear from you. It sounds like to me, some of you might want to see a much more aggressive reduction in the number of lots, and I'm not authorized to do that tonight. Hard to say, because I don't know that I've ever said this, but if you must deny me tonight, we'll come back with another project. But if you deny my annexation tonight, you won't have to deny my plat, and I believe I can come back in less than a year with a project.
If there's annexation as well.
If there's annexation, because the annexation doesn't have the requirement that you have to wait a year. So, of course, if you deny my annexation with an R3 PUD, then your other decisions are moot. And so, and so, yes. Yeah, so anyway, those are I can tweak this a little, but I can't drop another 10 lots out of this. I've already dropped 38 lots. And again, we're trying really hard not to do something, but let me just tell you, and I'm speaking way off script here, but we were trying to do something that was more creative than R2, R3, standard lots. If that is what you want to see, deny my annexation, we'll just come in with some standard lots. All the houses will look alike. There will be no and they'll all be about the same price. If that is what you feel like is your decision, we think the PUD really provides you much better opportunity to see a mix of housing. So the guy that does buy it, and he moves, he's a serviceman, he moves, there will be somebody else that wants to buy that lot, another serviceman, or maybe not a serviceman, and I really like the idea, you've already talked about it. You know, people that buy this, they may be people in the community, I hope so, because this is a great place to live, this is not far from downtown. This is a great opportunity to be in a nice area, and then maybe you're selling a house someplace else, and that's the more affordable housing. I mean, I live in a house that was built in 1952, it is not as nice as the houses out in Harris Ranch. I mean, even the smallest of the small houses out in Harris Ranch, was they're brand new, and they're twice as expensive as my little house, because it was built in 1952. So, anyway, there are my options. Tweak this a little bit with these new new lots, new numbers, or we have to take a denial, and I'll come back with a straight subdivision that looks just like R2, R3.
Councilman Bundy, sorry.
I had a question on procedure. Rather than do a denial, which could cause some of the time issues, if we just tonight say we would like you to go back and bring us back to help them, maybe we choose a councilman to help you, and we just say we would like you to go back and come back with another option, because it sounds like you're authorized to have us approve this tonight, but we don't.
With a little tweak to that, if you don't, yeah.
How much is a little tweak?
Five more lots, you decide.
Well, but my problem there is that we've had a few minutes to look at it, so I don't really want to.
So, and I agree with Councilman Bundy, so Jane, what if I pulled it, get a working group together,
Table.
table it,
Not
sorry,
pull it.
sorry, table it,
to a date certain.
correct,
Thank you.
get staff and maybe two councilmen to talk about it, look at it, is that, can we do that, to have them say, hey, all these concerns, or what can we do, Paul?
Not to have a quorum, certainly.
Right.
That's a public hearing.
Right.
Or a public meeting.
Right.
And then to the extent that it's a city council member that would meet, and be part of that group, anything that's going on there, I'd like to see that being recorded anyway, so that the comments, are available as to what was discussed in that. As opposed to if it's just staff, then that's fine.
Councilman, are you comfortable?
Nobody wants to know what Brock's saying.
Are you councilman with just staff, or do you want a councilman to be on that?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Bundy on it. The choice of the councilman is not necessarily problematic, because we do have obviously an expert, Mike McCain.
Yeah.
But I don't wanna volunteer for the work.
Why didn't I know that was coming?
Still volunteer.
That's my input.
I have no problem with it.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman,
Yeah,
so?
I just think we don't want to make a rush decision here without the input of the
Thank you.
community.
Thank you.
And especially this really wise old We've got so much knowledge that we'll never be able to replace.
So I would,
You're being buttered up, Mike.
Yeah, I know.
Are we allowed to go through the agenda item for a little deliberation and then table it without a decision?
Yes, so what you're doing
I'd
now.
like to get Rich in and talk to him, so.
Councilman, sorry, Richard, you come in?
I have an on the
Yeah.
agenda.
No, you're fine. I just didn't want to see.
I don't like this.
Oh, okay. Okay, so can I close the public hearing? Okay, I'm gonna close the public hearing.
Unless you have questions for me.
Unless you have,
Right.
do you have questions for Jane really quick, guys?
I just thought in your deliberation if you had questions for me.
Mr. Mayor,
But
I
also
had a
during
comment.
deliberations, you could always still ask the applicant.
You got a
I
question?
just had a really quick comment, Jane. That $360,000 to $380,000 orange lot that you were talking about. Remember, that was Meridian. We're going to be a little bit lower than that.
But
so.
that was 3 years ago.
Okay.
We
So
have.
Brock,
that was
I think I have,
The prices
so how does this work,
Old information.
Paul? This nice lady is waving her hand.
Yeah.
So does she come up and, are we still in the,
You have not closed the public hearing, but technically the rebuttal has already occurred, so if you're gonna allow further testimony, of course.
Gonna go back and forth.
Then the applicant gets to then rebut, that's just Robert's Rules of Order, that's just.
Can we
close it, and
No.
then it's gonna come back. It's gonna come back. Unless you wanna tell me a secret, what do you got?
Well, if you're
Track.
gonna, if you're gonna do that, then.
Then I gotta open it back up?
Well, I mean, that's fine, you haven't closed the public hearing yet.
Let's hear what she has to say.
My concern is I'm on, I'm.
Wait a minute, name, all
Yes.
that.
Yeah. Kim Simpson. I'm on Tanager, 901 Tanager, 992 Tanager. I guess my thing would be the traffic study. Being where I live, and I think 90% of the council here has, if we could request another traffic study that would be more viable, more current, more up to date, a longer period of time, just to see what it looks like.
No, I would like to come back up and speak.
No, there's no doubles. That's
I'll
one
come
thing
in
you don't
anyway.
do.
No,
You are not.
I'm not allowed at
No,
all.
there's, you do not,
That's
there's not.
Terry, tell me over here.
Yeah. There's no, I can't hear you.
If we're making a change to this plan, shouldn't it go back to planning and zoning?
Oh, I think it should.
No, that isn't the Idaho statute at all. It doesn't have, it's not remanded back. It gets remanded back for another public hearing at P and Z if the city councils or county commissioners, depending on where you are, aren't also going to do a public hearing. So because you had one at that level, and now you're having another one, 67, 65, 09 does not require it to be remanded. So that's the answer. That's the legal question.
And we're guaranteed another public hearing?
So,
No,
I,
it depends on how this is modified.
Well,
If
that's
it-
what we
if it's
wanna
simply
see is
gonna
the
be
modification.
If the lots are gonna be reduced, then that is not a material change that would require another public hearing.
we may come up with
But that's the law. They could do whatever they want, but
Yeah,
that's
but
just
we
what the
wanna
law
see the
says.
modification.
so it's gonna come back. Trust me, there will be no decision on anything until it comes back, okay? And we'll make sure everybody knows. Everybody that's here, you'll get a letter from Brock. With hugs and
What?
kisses.
XOXO.
XOXO. So I'm gonna close the public hearing. Close. Okay.
Technically, wait, because of the last comment by Tim, you have the legal right to rebut only as to what she said.
Okay, she asked for a different traffic study. That would delay us quite a bit. That is instrumental to our approval, then we will do that. But you will not find that the level of service changes or that there will need to be any mitigation to any of the intersections or roadways, because we're at level of service A and B, which is allowable traffic. Again, we can do counts, and we can do counts of existing traffic today and add our traffic, but you will not find any required mitigation, and that's what we really do traffic studies for, is not to just say, well, we used to have 65 cars, and now we're gonna have 165 cars. That's still level of service A, but there's no mitigation. So, that's my only comment, is that but if that is something you feel is absolutely necessary, we will do that. You just tell me today, so I can get that scheduled. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Close public hearing.
Yeah, well, no, you'll close it. I just wanted to make one comment that what the mayor said, you'll get notification. If you didn't speak, please give Brock your address, or you may not get one.
Yeah.
It'll be on Facebook, it'll be everywhere, what's going on, it'll be on our website, so. I just wanna make sure that they understood that.
Alrighty. We're gonna run down to item number 3.
You didn't take it.
Two-way dates are done.
Sorry, Councilman? So then we want Councilman McCain and Council. What?
Hard to say, isn't it?
Mr. Mayor,
You
I
get
thought-
bony or you get old.
Right, so.
I got a procedural question. I thought Councilman Brennan wanted to talk about it for a little bit.
Okay, we're gonna do it.
Okay.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Then
that's,
don't table it.
yeah, we're good.
Mine, then,
Right.
See you, Connie.
Killing me, Smalls. Smalls. Okay, we'll run down to item number 3, recognizing persons in the audience that had none, that's not about that. Anybody like to get up and speak? Hearing none, we'll go down to item number 4.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman.
I had a chance this Saturday to attend the Pioneer Federal Credit Union Feast Day. We came to an elderly person's house. As a chamber board director, it was a great service. I appreciate Pioneer Federal Credit Union as one of our community partners.
Buddy,
This last Memorial Day, I had the opportunity to do the Memorial Day speech for the American Legion, and I just wanted to tell the cemetery staff what a wonderful job they did with getting the cemetery ready for Memorial Day, and the great job they've done for preserving the flowers that people put on their headstones for the few weeks after. So, just like to pass that on to that crowd. Good of an event. They facilitated with a beautiful ceremony.
We'll run down to item number 5, the consent agenda. Councilman, you got anything you wanna talk about, pull, remove on the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Bundy?
make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as printed.
Second.
It's been motion and second. I'll call for, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Councilman Bundy?
Aye.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman Kane?
Aye.
Councilman Stokes?
Aye.
Run down to item number 6, items removed from the consent agenda, discussion of city, or nothing was, so then we'll run down to discussion of city on planning and zoning recommendations to vacate approximately 0.33 acres of right-of-way on West 8th South Street requested by Lawrence Hyatt, owner of property located at 380 West 7th South. Councilman, what do you got?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Bundy.
before the meeting, Mr. He gave us a quick explanation. Rich, could you take just a minute or two and just explain that?
Yeah, just Council Mayor, one of the reasons we kind of thought this was, advisable to vacate it is because of the canal is right there. And if we were gonna continue, 9th Street, is that what it was, 9th Street, it would have to go over the canal, and then we'd have to worry about having a bridge, and it just changes a whole bunch of different things that we have to worry about, so. A whole different level of road.
What facilitates growth? Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Bundy.
make a motion that we approve planning and zoning recommendation to vacate approximately 0.33 acres of right-of-way on West 8th South Street requested by Lawrence Hyatt, owner of property located at 380 West 7th South Street.
Second.
It's been motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Councilman Stokes?
Aye.
Councilman Kane?
Aye.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman Bundy?
Aye.
All right, discussion decision.
I thought about it.
You missed me, I couldn't remember you. Discussion decision on recommendation of planning and zoning for annex of zone R3 with planned unit development PUD preliminary plat for Thunderbolt Landing. So this is the one that Councilman Brennan wants to ask Mr. Yurkey some questions before we do any action item.
I'll try to get for that again. I heard some of the answers.
General conversations, is it okay?
Go ahead. Yes.
I did want to address, there was a topic about schools brought up, and just for the record, we did receive a letter from the superintendent of schools who said exactly what she said, that, I don't know what year it was, but the numbers of registered students, I don't know if I'll say it exactly right, has significantly decreased since about the year 2010, is that right? Anybody
Or
remember?
11.
And so, In 2011, the enrollment was within reasonable standard within the school, and the letter continues from Mr. Gilbert to go on to say that there can be no new planning or development of a new school until maximum capacity has been reached. Did I get that right? Just
Yes.
for the record. Okay. So the issue about, can you address that?
Yep. I can, I'll try to do my best with that. It is in the medium pressure. Some of these lots are in the medium pressure zones, so we have a limited amount that we can do with that. How the growth is working with this plan is it's gonna be from the south to north, so they won't get into the medium pressure zone to start with, so we can certainly, I can't think of how many lots there are. It will go over that, but we can be able to plan to upgrade our boosters to be able to handle that.
You lost me there. From south to north, it gets worse in pressure?
Yeah, there's a medium pressure zone in between there, and so that's where the pressures are kind of, people have to have some extra things in their houses, so that to hold, so things don't explode and things like that. So there is pressure, but we have to kind of deal with the growth in that area to make sure that our boosters on 3rd Street can handle that. So at full build out, it would probably put it over by, I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, like 20 houses. So we'd have to plan to make sure that we have, our boosters can be able to handle that. We only usually run one of them at a time, so we just have to reconfigure it a little bit to make sure that everything can handle what's going on there.
You can only run one booster at a time?
That's all we have to right now because of what,
right now.
There's 3 boosters up there, but usually one of them's only running at one time. So we would just have to do some reconfiguring to make sure that we have that taken care of. And we'd probably have to do a little bit more by playing with some of the valves that are around in that area. So some of the valves we don't even touch just because of, if we were to turn it off, everybody's pressure would go away. So we have to pay attention to that. So, but as this was developed during the phases, that's in the 4th phase, so we have time to be able to take care of that, and that's something we've been looking at too.
So is there a need for another booster station? Or
No, it's not, we just have to tweak the one that we have.
Tweak it. Is it time to tweak it since they're obviously complaining about their pressure now? Like, I don't wanna wait to address it for the new neighborhood.
Yeah, we haven't heard any complaints about pressure, so.
Nobody's complained publicly, or I mean to Public Works?
No.
Okay.
I did have that one from Ron and Deb Swearingen, but I asked Dave, and he said that they're at the end of a line.
They shouldn't be at the end of the line, but I don't know, I'd have to see I'd have to ask, I don't know. Yeah, there's a water line that runs all the way up that street, so I don't know what it would have been. So.
I'll have to ask Ron.
And they are right on that, I know that their spot's right on that version of that system.
What side you fall on?
I don't know like where I wanna go with that. I don't feel like my thought process isn't done, but they obviously identified an issue. Maybe they haven't identified it to us ahead of time, but is that something we can like laser focus in on before the new development comes? We know there's gonna be a development, I'm just saying that.
Right, we have enough houses, it's been, I haven't looked at the new numbers because these are new, I'd have to look to see how many that we have, but, and where those get knocked off from, but we have quite a few, what I wanna say, buildings or houses that we can still put into that system without having to do any upgrades, and I have to look at what, I have to look at what those numbers are now, cause if we're gonna change them, I know with what the original one was, that it was probably going to tap it over just a little bit, and we have to it's not gonna be built out for 4 years, so we have plenty of time to be able to look at those things, and those are on our radar to be able to look at.
So there's not a need for another booster station, and this Viper Investments is not gonna be responsible in their PUD for any type of a booster station or?
No, cause we would take care of those things out of availability, because
We
it's a
have
future.
3 boosters in that booster station, or we only use 1 at a time.
There's 3 pumps in there right now.
You can turn 2?
Yeah, they
Yes.
just rotate right now, and we only ever have 1 going at one time.
Yes, it's all up here. But hang on a second, are you?
I want, before you get
let
off
Councilman
of the
Brennan
school,
Finish.
I'm done for now.
Okay, Councilman
I just wanted to, about the school, back in 2009, 2010, I don't know if, Councilman Brendan was here at the time though, there was a major drop in Mountain Home. Industry just died, building just quit. For 2 to 3 years back there, I don't think we had one building permit. And I think a lot of people at that time left. I know several contractors did, cause they had no business. So I don't know how many other people left too, but I think we're gonna be starting getting some of that back real short. That was the only thing I just wanted to comment about the schools.
Councilman Bundy?
Yeah, Rich brought up a good point, and I think we forgot to highlight this earlier. That whatever we put in there, and I think we're all agreed that there's gonna be something going in there. It's gonna take 4 or 5 years to build it out, correct?
Yeah.
So we're gonna be able to see what's going on along the time, and we'll be able to fix things. It's not like we're gonna put in that whole subdivision in the summer, so we're looking at 2027.
It's rockers.
Yeah.
It's gonna take a while.
So, and I think that's a good point that we continue to think about is we have years to monitor this growth, so we're gonna keep it coming back in.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Stokes?
Jane, I want to just give you my appreciation for kind of meeting in the middle there. There was a citizen that said back in 2008, it was planned for 171 lots. And you had 238 at first, and now we're down to 200. So you've gone more than 50% in my perspective. So I appreciate that. I wanted to ask Paul a question about what's this procedural thing about annexing it without approving the PUD.
Well, you're gonna dodge that bullet.
Might take long.
But if you did not act on the zoning and the, PUD, and you just did not do it, once you deny the annexation request, it renders the zoning, question or application moot. And so the prohibition that comes in that you cannot reapply within 1 year, technically, I think you can make an argument against it. But I support that interpretation of that. So it's just a nuance on, did you actually hear an application on a PUD? Cause it wasn't denied. Because if all you reached was the annexation, it rendered the rest of it moot.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Stokes?
I had one more question for you, Jane. I was wondering, we are $15,000 short on an outdoor fitness park for our community. I was wondering if you might reach out to your client and see if there could be something done there. Just to consider.
Okay.
Okay?
I don't have to respond to that.
No.
Public meeting.
And some sunshades.
You always gotta try.
To Jane's comment, I would just like to say that, these are solely my comments, not these guys, but for me, the meet in the middle ground that we're gonna have to do is in the orange lots. And that's my opinion, and the 5-foot setbacks for a total of 10 feet between driveways, that's where you're gonna have to sway me. Mostly, not just that, but that's the vast majority right there, the orange lots. I understand variances, and variances are important, and I don't have any problem with a mixed use, or, I don't know if that's the right, mixed use neighborhood. They need to be a little bigger than 36 feet wide, and 5-foot setbacks, just me.
Councilman, discussion decision, would you like to table this pending, or not pending, but table it to the next meeting? Having Councilman, McCain, and did I hear Councilman Stokes volunteer?
I didn't.
If staff can make a comment, I want 2 councilmen.
I do too.
And I don't know, I know that we should be very expedient and cognizant of the time, but given current workloads and wanting to provide you the best product possible, and I'll definitely start with Jane, I don't know if we should do it for our next council meeting, but the next one, which would be on July 12th.
That way gives the citizens some time to digest and then look at what you're thinking.
And I would also like some clarification concerning the citizen input. I support citizen input. I think this project has probably received more citizen that look like, and what is the expectation? I would hate to tell the developer that we're gonna add citizens to the group too, and if you don't meet all of their desires and needs,
That would
it's
be
not going to
unlawful.
happen.
You
So
cannot.
I want to make sure that we are very clear that when they hear, yes, we're gonna work with the citizens, we're gonna do stuff, that that is not the expectation.
Right. Okay, mailbox, check, that one's checked off, got that one figured out. Fiber optics, that one's it's not 3,000 or 35 for a new development. They are required per our, new development agreement that they already put in the conduit, so the hookup fee would be, what was it? Less than the 3,000.
We'll put in the conduit.
Yes,
right?
yep.
Okay.
Let's see here. Just trying to, in my mind, just trying to check off. House Bill 389. It frustrated the rest of us rural communities.
I
We
wanna
have-
say that was ridiculously articulate. You addressing 389.
Thank you.
So,
I was like,
we have Ann Westcott.
I come out with a little bit every once in a while.
Hopefully, with this body, she'll come back with more clarification on how do we fix it ourselves. So Ann Westcott, Brock can kind of give you kind of a synopsis really quick on that.
And so we are currently reevaluating our impact fees. Normally, you're supposed to do them every 5 years. We haven't done that, but we're doing it now. And it's going to take into account that bill. Know that we are extremely cognizant. When I received Becky's email, I was on vacation, and I made phone calls, and my wife was unhappy with me for half a day. But we are cognizant, and localities are going to have to look at the way we develop.
Right.
And we're going to have to develop in a more sustainable way than we used to. Which means that looking at different type of developments, such as this one, which maybe this one in its current form doesn't meet here, but she can make the argument all day that it's self-sustaining by the amount of property tax that it brings in to repair the roads, the sidewalks, police, everything else. So yes, we are looking at the impact fees, and we are going to have a meeting. It's going to be posted, and everyone is invited.
We believe that new development needs to pay for itself, not the current citizens paying for the new development. And so that 80%, that's wrong. So we need to talk to our legislators at the State House. Tell them.
wish one of them were here right now.
All joking aside, for low income, we have a development off of Fifth Street called Leap Charities that is solely based on income. And we call it workforce housing. And I think the 20% has to be based off of low income, 80% was workforce, right?
Yes, it's all based off of percentages, so they are people who are working, and it allows them to enter a more affordable product. We have that coming down the line. And also, council, we have other products that are very similar to this one coming as well. The one thing I would, I don't wanna say caution, but what I would counsel you to do is, all of those other developers are watching this meeting, we will want to be consistent with how we treat them. Those other developments will deserve the same due diligence that you gave all of these good people as well. So note that that needs to be something that we maintain, and we won't be able to, and this is Brock Cherry saying cherry pick, but we won't be able to cherry pick the ones that we want to pay more due diligence to, and others not. So know that what we're doing here, whatever you choose to do, needs to be consistent.
And Brock, right before you were gonna talk, I was gonna address that exact issue. We do have, and that's one of the things that we're talking about in this particular subdivision, is consistency with that around it. And there are other places that we're looking at. We've got R4 down Airbase Road. We have areas, and I hope that, you know, you're aware that other areas in town, we have different types of housing and different types of products. So we are very aware of that. I want developers to know that we will work with them. And I also had a comment on the second councilman, which I think is a good idea. If we run more than one meeting, what I would suggest with the other two councilmen is that you let us know when it is, and then between the three of us, we can determine who it is, and if there's more than one meeting, we can have more than one councilman go to a meeting with Mike. Does that sound fair, Mike?
I think there should be another council.
That's my point, so we can rotate who it is.
Yeah, who it is.
Between the three of us, when you guys set a meeting, we can figure out which of the three of us can make it.
That's fine, I think
Does
we
that
should
sound
be.
okay?
I'm good with that.
Okay, so do I hear any,
So we need to make a, we need a date.
Are we going to July 12th, or are we?
Can we ask Jane if that's okay? Is
sorry.
July 12th okay for you and your
Do you
client?
want to try to go sooner? Is there-
No, I don't think there's time to get sooner between now and 2 weeks. When's your next meeting?
The next meeting would be June 28th.
Okay, yeah, I don't think in 2 weeks I have a hearing tomorrow night and I have another hearing next week, so, yeah, I think by,
12?
yeah, 12 is good.
Okay, do I hear a motion, recommendation, what do you guys, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Bundy?
See if we get the words right
Table.
here. Mr. Mayor, make a motion that we table we table discuss decision on recommendation for planning and zoning for the annex and zone R3 with planned unit development and preliminary plat for Thunderbolt Landing
Second.
to
Oh.
July 12th.
Second.
With Councilman McCain and another councilman and staff with inviting the public to the meeting.
I think you just said you can't do that.
No, you can invite the public if you wanted to be there, but it is not a public hearing, it is not. What you can't do, somebody articulated about a citizen advisory committee, and that committee must be satisfied before the application can be approved by you. I'm like, whoa, hold on, no, it's not.
So do we just wanna basically?
Okay, so now how does citizen?
One property owner can't hold their neighbor accountable to
Correct.
say you can't be approved unless I'm satisfied, it doesn't work that way.
Just staff and Councilman McCain with another councilman,
Yeah.
you guys can shuffle off who wants to go at any particular meeting.
What we could do is document the meeting, because there's probably gonna be two.
Well, he recommended that we
Yes,
do it
record
anyway,
it.
so.
I recommend it.
We can
Okay.
certainly get our
So you got
questions
that?
to you guys.
Second.
All right,
All in favor?
let me try to quantify it here. So motion and second that we table the discussion decision recommendation of planning and zoning unit for annex the R3 to planning and development PUD preliminary plat for Thunderbolt Landing till with Councilman McCain and every other councilman to meet with city staff to work with Jane. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Councilman McCain?
Aye.
Councilman Brennan? Councilman Stokes?
Aye.
Councilman Buddy? Okay. Okay, run down to executive item, item 8, budget presentation.
So you got a couple more before you get to that.
Yeah, domestic violence.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
That's, Kim, how you been?
I'm good, thank you. Oh,
Took long enough to get her, didn't it?
Mr. Mayor?
We should have put you in the front, right?
Right, yeah, that would've been great. Thank you for having us here again this year. We're excited to be here. Thank you, Paula. Just allowing us to get this opportunity to give you an update on our progress over the last year. Our numbers increased again from the last time we met. We had 101 new, or actually, as of today, 102 new clients. And just a reminder that when those clients come in, we don't just see them once. We offer case management, support groups, individual counseling, so we're seeing them repeatedly for several months. We help them get ready to come into shelter. Sometimes we're able to help them get right into housing. We do deposits, first month's rent, and so we do a lot of case management to get them to where we want them to be. As you've probably noticed over this last summer, we've done a lot of teen outreach. That is one of the areas we're really focusing on. There are some rural grants that we applied for this last year, is that correct, Chris? That allowed us to put some money into those teen programs and do the healthy relationships and awareness for the teens in our community. We've had an incredible response from that, so we're very excited about it. So with that, I wanted to, if you're not familiar, you probably are with the VOCA funding. It's federal funding. It's one of our largest funding streams for the shelter and the resource center and all the services we provide to clients. There have been some cuts across the nation. Victims this year are missing out on almost $500 million
what does that mean for Elmore County Domestic Violence Council here in Willow Mountain Home? I'm gonna turn it over to Christopher. He's gonna give you an idea of what that looks like for us now.
Mayor, Councilman, thank you for having us again. So yeah, like Kimberly mentioned, unfortunately, it's about $500 million that the VOCA Victims of Crime Act grant has not received. So everybody, including us and everybody else that that grant sub-award disseminates to, has to figure out how to make it work. The option of not providing the services is just never on the table. I think we all agree that we'd probably sell a few things of our own before that would happen. But with that being said, in FY21 this year, we are operating on $528,666. It's been a pretty good year as far as being able to provide services and everything that we can do for our clients. We've gone from 2 years ago to where it's, can we afford it, to yes we can, how many can we help? And so we've really been riding that well and making sure that every dollar spent, if it can go to a client before anything else, it does. And for your well-being in your minds or whatnot, we do have to operate off of our VOCA guidelines from the Idaho Council on Domestic Violence and Victim Assistance. It is very, very cut and dry. They make sure that federal dollars for this grant meant for victims and survivors of domestic violence aren't spent on anything unreasonable. So in FY22 we had requested $605,000 to expand our services. We were awarded $374,000. So difference between request and award is $231,000, which is 38.2% from what we requested to what was awarded. So the difference in our FY21, this year's operating budget, and our FY22 award is $154,000. So that was taken off the top just from the funding cuts from everybody. So we have to operate on 70.8% of our FY21 budget when we had anticipated on expanding operations. So it's, we're going from 100% operating now, which is by the skin of our teeth, and now we're going down to 70.8. Is it impossible? No, but we'll make it work. Our organization cut. This was over months and months, and the last few weeks was the last ditch effort. So we shaved off $54,000, $54,533 ourselves. We managed to do that without cutting staff. That was from calling all day, every day, and leaving the phones on the weekends and forwarding them if we can for people to call us back. Practically, begging for any kind of break that we can get past our nonprofit 501c3 status. So it's getting people on the phone, hopefully carrying people on the phone, saying, hey, we're kind of in a pickle. Not putting the whole white flag out of we didn't get that, we didn't get this much, we want this much, of just, hey, how can you help? Is there any way to help? If not, thanks, have a great day. And so that's where that number comes from. And then before we even did that, it was cutting anything operationally other than victim services that we think we can sustain a year for. So going to minimum whatever we can. And like I said, our goal was to not cut staff. I don't know if you've ever been by the shelter or anything like that, but it is a very big responsibility for any one person to be manning. So we have a team of 6 advocates. We have one weekend advocate, and the rest cover the weekends, the day shift, the night shift, the evening shift, or the mid shift, whatever you want to call it. So we have finally built a team that we can trust to man that shelter. And not just the shelter, we're talking, they are in the same home as our victims and survivors. They are there to advocate 24/7. When I say 24/7, it is at 1 o'clock in the morning, it is at 2 o'clock in the morning, it is at whatever time they need them. And we have finally built a team to where we can finally sleep well at night because we have an advocate team that's so in sync that we can go home and have a restful night. And even if we still get phone calls every now and then because not everybody's prepared for everything. We aren't, that's for sure. But we can finally sleep a little easier knowing that our clients and victims and survivors are being taken care of. And we can leave one individual that we have trained and that we have trusted and they've trusted us in an entire shelter with clients, and they will meet their needs. And if they don't, they know who to call. So cutting staff was a big issue for us. When you cut them 1 year and next year you might have a better year, you can't get that person back. You can try as hard as you can, and you have to go through 2 or 3 that you hire and you go through that don't work out. And we've reached a place where we don't have to do that. So we are left after that $54,000 with a deficit of $100,000 to go not to the $603,000 that we had requested, but to the budget that we are operating this fiscal year. So we shot for the moon. It didn't happen, so we're going to be realistic and go with what we know has been working for the last fiscal year. So I think we're asking for the same as we did last year, that 10,000, so simple math, that's 10%. This last fiscal year, we've raised 40% of that deficit that we're talking about. We just pre-raised just over $40,000. We do have some support from foundations. That is not including those numbers. That is a little over $40,000 of what Mountain Home as a community in cash, check, however it may be, not via in-kind, has helped us out. So, and that was partially through the year of COVID. And so we're hoping if we can at least meet the minimum, that 40%, and then a 10% from the city, we're halfway there. We have another year to figure out how we can do it. We can reach out to our foundations, and we realize we don't want to keep asking for money from our Mountain Home community. As we just talked about with affordable housing, you can't just throw money out the door, even if it is towards a good cause sometimes. It's unfortunate. You gotta make sure, you feed your kids and you gotta have a roof over your own head. So we've identified that and what we want to do for the next year. And so we've got goals for reaching out to corporate organizations, much larger organizations, maybe outside of Elmore County, that are willing to help. Because we've all agreed that we don't want to tap into our community as much. 40%, a little over $40,000 in cash value every year is incredible from this community. And a lot of people don't get to see that, but it's very nice when we see that happen. So we figure if we can get halfway there, we'll be in a good spot. And we're hoping that it's just a bad year or two, and that we have a much better plan. But we work day and night on it.
And there, I'm sorry. Oh, and there is hope. There is a Boca Fix Act. It just passed the House, and it's on May 17th. It passed the House, so we're waiting for the Senate to pick it up. And if that passes, then we will hopefully see a change, and the Boca funding stream will return. But we are still looking at this year, possibly next year, before we actually see that Boca Fix Act come to fruition. So, yeah.
We're definitely not seeing this funding fix this year for our budget as a Band-Aid, but more of a long-term effect, whether the Boca Fix is fixed or not, knowing that we don't want to be coming back every year and operating on a budget that we are over budget on. So we're definitely not thinking it's a Band-Aid, so we're thinking long-term.
Did you, since you are 5% there, are you guys allowed to go out for PPP money and those kind of stuff?
Yes, we've tried to tap into a lot of things. The realm of domestic violence, there's not a whole lot that's offered. A lot of the verbiage and there's a lot of mini grants, I should say, smaller grants and money that we can apply for that we have been awarded. But as far as these larger funding streams, the VOCA and the FISPA, the Family Violence Prevention Service Act, and then the state money is really where it's all coming from, and that's VOCA is well more than 80% of that, and that's the funding stream that's being cut. So we can try to get all these little Band-Aids that come in and whatnot, but our main funding stream is in crisis right now, so that's what we're trying to go through. But we are diligently looking for other grants and opportunities and reaching out. As far as calling Idaho Power and asking, can you help us out?
Yeah, and Idaho Power is on our list of grantees. So as soon as Candace gets back from vacation next week, we will just be pumping out grants, whether they're $500 grants or $5,000 grants. We're going to hit everyone we can find, and we will do everything we can to continue to survive and offer this service to our community.
You guys are amazing. Thank you for what you guys do.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Councilman, you got any questions or anything, or good?
No, just thank you. Yeah, thank you. Miss Mayor had a quick question.
Sorry.
Yeah.
City of Mountain Home, baskets for babies, community baby shower, donations needed June 19th to the 16th. Baby necessities, new items only, diapers, bottles, swaddling blankets, baby wipes, pacifiers, bath supplies. 8 drop-off locations: Mountain Home Police Department, Library, Chamber of Commerce, Recreation Department, City Hall, Mountain Home RV Resort, Family Fun Zone, St. Luke's Elmore Medical at 895 North 6th East. All donations go to Elmore County Domestic Violence Council.
It's not full.
Sorry.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
So
And
much.
everybody support this, because this is definitely one of the areas that we will not be able to purchase items. So things like diapers, wipes, things for children. So yeah, definitely. Thank you, Paula, for all your hard work on this.
Yeah, every year.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you for your time.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Visitor Center.
Sorry.
Just saying that just passed a bit.
Yeah, babies.
Sometimes we overdo it.
So Mayor, Council, thanks for having us. I'm the Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce, but today I'm here to report on behalf of the Visitor Center. Obviously, 2020 was a wild ride, and the center definitely rode that wave. They were closed from March through June they went ahead and reopened, slowly, safely, basically going off of the typical protocols that everyone was, following. But as of April of this year, the center has fully reopened. Gift shop, masks are optional, so we're in full service at this point. Some of the things that I kinda wanna highlight as far as travel and tourism for our area, obviously our region saw a huge increase in recreational use and staycations, so campsites, parks, anything of outdoor capacity was at full capacity. So, kind of note that. Also, Mount Holmes Air Force Base, their kind of halt in movement definitely affected our hotels and restaurants. So that was kind of a significant, loss of revenue for them, but they are making a comeback and, kind of reporting business as usual, other than the fact that staffing is still a concern across the board. So, another thing is our county, partners, they've been doing events and we are in full support of those events. Everything that we've seen so far, Mountain Home does have direct benefits from, whether it's hotel stays or, just shopping locally, so there's that. I've included, I don't know if Tiffany was able to pass it out, but there is a packet. I've included some, Visit Idaho information if you wanna, refer to that. It's for across the state and just how tourism affects Idaho. We did put in for a grant for $13,500. These dollars, if granted, will go towards marketing pieces, for community canvas, website updates, information kiosk, and, just promoting other events throughout the area. As of March 2021, we did, our longtime visitor center coordinator did retire, Nancy Thompson. So since then, we've hired Diane Semple, and so I just kinda wanted to introduce her and let her speak on what is currently happening.
Mayor, Councilman, thank you for letting me speak. We are hosting a lot of summer events throughout the summer to increase awareness of the visitor center and showcase. It was brought to our attention that a lot of people in town never even knew we existed. So we're gonna put a couple of events. Our first event is a book signing for local authors, and that'll be on June 26th from 11 to 1 p.m. And we are partnering with the library on that issue. On our second event, which will be July 31st, it's gonna be a sip and shop event, and that too will be from 11 to 3. And which will highlight a lot of local wineries and some makers here in town. So we have quite a few cheese, we have a lot of different events coming out throughout the whole town. We will have possibly one more prior to the summer ending on that. And we will be displaying a lot of our events on social media. I'm trying to beef up that more, doing that at least 3 times a week to make awareness of what events are going around in town, not just at a visitor center, and promoting that you can come in, ask us questions, see what's going on. We have maps, everything coming in. We like to also receive with the window replacements. We have provided estimates to Paula for your consideration. Your annual contribution of $5,000 is marketed for operational costs. And we thank you for your continued support of the Visitor Center.
Thank you, ladies.
Mayor, Council, in the budget process, you would have seen that we included the window estimates in there for the building, because I think Nancy brought that up last year, so we made sure we got it into this year, so you should be good to go.
I do also wanna mention, like, during our, kind of close down, there was refurbishing of the shelving units. Dan's been great about getting new product in, so there's definitely an appeal that's coming, into, sales and things like that, so we're
anything, Councilman? Hearing none, oh, Councilman Brennan?
Jane, before you leave, I just wanted to say, you put on you gave us great information.
Yes.
A good show?
And,
I didn't say it.
and I look forward to working with you and any other developer that does come around. We're not trying to be real sticklers or pain, but, we're a great product, I'm sure.
Alrighty, Councilman Stokes?
I was gonna go to item 10 unless
Oh,
anyone else had a
perfect.
comment. Yeah, I'd like to make a motion pursuant to Idaho Code Section 74-206 subsection 1B to consider the evaluation, dismissal, or disciplining of, or to hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, or staff member.
Second.
Been motion and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question, Councilman Brennan? Aye. Councilman Stokes?
Aye.
Councilman McCain?
Aye.
Councilman Bundy? Aye. On into executive session.